Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our show this week. We got a great one. We've got a little bit of news on Star Wars Squadron, which is a really cool game that's coming out. And then, of course, we have... What else do we got?
William Hootkins, man.
Well, I know about that, but what else?
Well, we also have...
the Star Wars Celebration
Celebration news. And, of course, William Hootkins, and not to mention our Duel of Fates with Quinlan Voss.
All right. It's coming up right after this.
You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this show. So we're going to do something a little bit different this week.
Okay.
We're going to actually get right into our certain point of view.
Wow, the meat of the matter.
Yes, this week we are talking about the secret life of William Hootkins, and it's coming right now. All right, here we are. We're talking about the secret life of William Hootkins, and I gotta say, the guy that is responsible for us even doing this, Darren Kane, says, "Hey guys, hey Darren, so we're actually doing it, man. We're gonna talk about William Hootkins today, and we're gonna pretty much do it now." I see Reynaldo is with us again. He's our friend from Honduras, and we had a really good conversation during our premiere chat last week, which I thought was really cool. So, what about William Hootkins?
Man, William Hootkins is a cool guy. It's hilarious. Of course, everybody kind of makes fun of him kind of a little bit in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Because, of course, he plays the character Jack Porkins. And, of course, he's a rather rotund, robust individual, but he's so much more than that one particular character. He's done one of the other great characters of Eckhart from the Batman.
I was going to say, I knew you were going to latch onto that.
Oh, that's my thing. So,
well, I mean, the funny thing was, I'm trying to remember who it was now. Somebody wrote in, I think it was C.D. Moore. He wrote in, I'm pretty sure it was him. I don't think it was Patrick. It was one of them. They actually wrote in on the Star Wars Head-to-Head community, our Facebook group.
Okay.
And they were talking about, that they were really excited about us doing the show and everything. And then I had another friend of mine who didn't even put the whole Eckhart
correlation
Porkins thing together. Yeah, I can't, almost like they had to turn in their nerd card or something, because it's like, wait a second. And I mean, I have to be honest, I really didn't know either. The whole time, I think I only found it out, maybe not while we were researching the story, but, Yeah,
I mean, I found that out, maybe some years ago. And I was like, wow, no way, that is the same guy. Because I remember somebody had kind of, made mention of it at some point. And I was like, no way. And so then, I kind of actually did the old school thing where you go and watch the credits, and then you go watch the credits of the other ones, yep, same guy. Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, and that really shows his acting ability, honestly, because... you have to be really, really good to do that, because if you look at the character of Eckhart and then you look at the character of Porkins, or any of the other guys he played.
Yeah, I mean, he's also in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Flash Gordon.
Yep, and that's another thing. I was talking to my coworker about that today, is the whole Flash Gordon thing. And Flash Gordon is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's so cheesy and it's so cool. And again... I had no idea that he was Zarkov's assistant. And it's just this guy pops up in the weirdest places. But the thing that's really funny, though, is that he also has a connection to the JFK assassination.
Yeah, so that was really interesting to read about. So I'm going to try to get this right. So, of course, we know Lee Harvey Oswald is the one who's actually charged with the assassination of JFK. But... of course, they were trying to figure out, okay, were there any co-conspirators? And, of course, they traced him back to, I believe, somebody named Miranda Payne. I believe that's her name. And so they were friends with Lee Harvey Oswald. In fact, that's where he hid the actual rifle that he used to assassinate JFK.
Yeah, wasn't he staying with her aunt or something?
Yeah, he was staying there, and that's where he hid the actual rifle in the garage, unbeknownst to them. So, of course, they had to kind of, check into her and kind of figure out, okay, were you a part of this? Did you know? And of course, they had to check any known associates of them, and that happened to be a 15-year-old William Hootkins, and he just happened to be in wrong place, wrong time, I guess. Kind of like my situation sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say it totally reminds me like that. If anything was gonna happen, if you were around in the 1960s,
that would be me.
That would be you. Yep. You just happen to be staying there or whatever. And it's like all of a sudden, you're being like on the hook for this whole like assassination of a president thing. Right.
Yeah. And so basically, he was just taking some lessons because she was his only student. So he would spend time with her. And then that's kind of how.
Yeah, wasn't
he kind of got involved?
She was like his Russian teacher or something. Like he was the only one taking Russian or something in that.
Yep, the only student. And then they, of course, like, okay, well, you were and he had to go to their house. So on top of that, he probably met Lee Harvey Oswald at some point, maybe, walking to the refrigerator or something.
That's crazy.
Just like, who knew? Like you would have never thought like, oh, okay, I'm just coming over taking some lessons. And now this guy's, being framed with the assassination of a president.
Well, it's funny. Darren is singing the whole Flash theme song now. As we, what? It's funny because you cannot say the Flash Gordon thing without doing the whole, Flash thing in your head.
It's your ringtone.
It is my ringtone.
Yep.
True story. It is my ringtone
currently.
It's so funny too because sometimes I'll forget about it and it does go off at meetings at work. It's like everybody's used to it now. Sometimes people even sing along to it.
Oh, wow.
But anytime anybody hears it for the first time, instantly, that's like the icebreaker for me. Everybody's like, no way, because what's funny to me is even though, because I saw that movie in the theaters back in like 1980, and that, actually, I hate to say it, but that was almost my first exposure to Queen. I mean, I knew who they were because I remember being 10 years old, and I was really excited about the fact that, they were doing the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. My mom actually took me to that movie. She took me and my friend Joey. I remember.
You have a little flashback.
Yeah. But it was funny because, it was one of those things that I remember like it was yesterday. And she took me to see the movie, me and my friend to see it. And I remember I was really excited to see it. Number one, because it was the whole Flash Gordon thing. Even though I wasn't really into the comics, I don't even know why I was really amped up to see this movie. But I do remember one of the reasons is because Queen did the soundtrack.
Well, I mean, in talking about Flash Gordon, granted, I've never seen any of, the movies or whatnot, but, every
they only had the one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there was supposed to be a trilogy.
Wasn't it a TV series too?
Well, what you're thinking of is, so Flash Gordon actually started out, it's like the Flash Gordon podcast now.
Right.
Flash Gordon actually started out as like this 1930s serial. Mm-hmm. And it works because that was actually one of George Lucas's primary influences.
That's what I was getting to. Like, that was the whole, like...
And that was when he decided to do Star Wars.
Wow. Well, it's crazy just the fact that William Hootkins has been part of two iconic space films. I mean, he's been part of Flash Gordon and Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then, looking up, because I've always wondered, even as a kid, all right, of course we know the line, cover me, Porkins. And then you see like this portly guy sitting in this cockpit. And you got to wonder like, all right, was this like planned? Like, was Porkins supposed to be a big guy or was he it just happened to be that way?
No, what's funny was, in researching this thing, he ended up actually like reading that part of the script and seeing that his name was Porkins. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, really, guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Like he had the same reaction that we all did.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, he's thinking it's a space movie. He's thinking like, okay, he's seeing all the creature development. So he's thinking like, oh, okay, they're going to put like a nose on me. And they were originally going to like make him kind of like of a pig alien almost type thing. Right. Like a warthog or something that's in the cockpit.
Which, I mean, that just would have been...
Yeah, that would have been kind of cheesy.
Really, guys? Come on. I mean, that's just so stupid.
Yeah, that's a bit on the nose. But the interesting is that interesting part about Hootkins playing Porkins, it's kind of weird to say, Hootkins playing Porkins, is that like even I'm about to say the TIE fighter, but the X-Wing fighter suit, like he couldn't really fit it, so they had to like...
Yeah, they split it down the back.
The back, so he had his T-shirt down there.
You know what? The next time that I watch New Hope now, I am totally going to see...
Mm-hmm. If you can see the shirt?
If I could see the shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I mean, it's just hilarious, just thinking about, he's played a lot of other characters over the years, and he's actually like a very well-trained actor. Unfortunately, passed away in 2005 to pancreatic cancer. But, he's played, some pretty, whether they're supportive characters or main characters, he's played some iconic people, unbeknownst to him. He even went to school with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, well, the thing that was really fascinating to me, too, was the fact that he had studied, so he wanted to be an actor, and then, that wasn't really panning out. So then he ended up, I think he went somewhere, and then he studied like astrophysics and, like all these languages and stuff like that. And then he decided to return to his first love, which of course is acting. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just one of those things where, you never know. It just always fascinates me when I see these guys because, number one, it's almost like, when do you make the decision to quit versus, because if you think about it, it made sense, his whole reasoning, right? I mean, It's like, okay, you know what? This acting thing isn't working out. It's not paying the bills or whatever. I'm going to go do this, which seems to make more sense. But then, who was it that actually, somebody convinced, it wasn't Tommy Lee Jones, I don't think, was it? Somebody convinced him, somebody famous convinced him to go back into acting. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was somebody where you're like, oh, no way. It's like this guy now is responsible for bringing him back in. But while you're looking that up.
Well, before then, now we talked about him being in Batman. We talked about him being in Flash Gordon. Now, you're a huge Indiana Jones fan. So
all right.
He played
Raiders. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, he was one of the two government guys that basically, I forget his major something, but they were in that whole scene where the two government guys were interrogating, well, they weren't really interrogating, but questioning Indiana Jones and Marcus about Ravenwood
another
and stuff.
Name that's I mean, this guy has
I never even thought of that, man. That's just like, no way.
He's been called Porkins. He's been Major Eden, and then he played some guy named Fat Abernathy as well.
Well, no, Fatty Arbuckle.
That's
like a real guy. I mean,
but I'm just saying.
But I know. I know. It's like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, dude,
he can't get away with
theme.
it.
Yeah,
poor guy.
I mean, well, it's funny though, because if you think about it, now there were a lot of X-wing pilots, and of course, there's Wedge, there's the main guys, Biggs, but it's funny that his whole portrayal is Porkins. I don't know if it's because of his name and everybody's just laughing about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a couple of memes out there that are hilarious.
Oh yeah, man, they've gotten so bad with those. I mean, it's
well, there's actually like a video. It was done a while ago. It was like around the time when YouTube and stuff like that was actually first catching on. Where he's like got, like a thing of fries and a drink and all that. He's like, flying around and bouncing in the X-Wing. Like they put that in there digitally. And I mean, it's hilarious, dude. It's wrong, but it's funny.
Yeah. I mean, when you got a guy named Porkins and then you see him, you're like, oh, really?
Yeah, well, that's exactly, and it's just like, you can't help but.
You're squeezing this guy into like this little itty bitty cockpit.
Well, I just thought it was so crazy about the whole costume thing.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even have a costume to fit him. It's like, well, you cast him.
Exactly.
You have a costume director. It's like.
Just make it.
You know what's interesting? He was actually supposed to play the human Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, he was. Now, the other thing, too, though, so his character in Batman, he played Lieutenant Eckhart, which is actually really supposed to be Harvey Bullock.
Really?
Yeah, that's actually like Harvey Bullock's character.
I didn't even, I could see that. I could totally see that would be, but I never actually made that correlation.
Yeah, because, Harvey Bullock was kind of like this like giant overweight slub kind of guy, but he was kind of like hard-nosed and he was gritty.
Right, and if you think about, just the way he dressed and everything, I mean, it's kind of a Harvey Bullock type.
Yep, everything.
Yeah. He was sort of like kind of corrupt and...
He kind of played, on the edge a little bit. Definitely, well, not a little bit, really on the edge. And even when we saw it in Gotham, the TV show, that's when I first saw him, like, okay, he's playing Bullock, but he's a whole lot smaller. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, maybe, in years' time, he gets a little, more portlier. But yeah, Lieutenant Eckhart, that was originally Bullock.
Why did they change it?
I don't know. I don't know why they call him Eckhart, but they pretty much modeled that particular character off. I don't know. I guess I have to email Tim Burton or something. But
well, it's just one of those things that, again, you think about all the changes and things that they made. I mean, if you think about even in Star Wars, originally, Darth Vader wasn't supposed to be Luke's father.
Right.
So it's kind of like through rewrites and, things like that. It's a natural evolution, I think. But it's really weird to me, though, that this guy, he went to Princeton.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really smart guy.
There's just
study astrophysics. I mean, these are some hardcore kind of stuff. And
yeah, and it's one of those things that it really makes you think. We featured, obviously, William Hootkins in this thing, but there's so much to all these supporting actors in the Star Wars universe that you never even think about. And it's funny which side characters actually make an impact versus ones, that are relatively forgettable.
Yeah, because I always did like I always call him the Texan, because that's what he kind of sounds like. He's in New Hope. He's one of the fighter pilots. He's like, hold on, wait for my signal. Like, he kind of has
that guy.
His face is like kind of like a plum or beet red. I'm just like, he kind of reminds me like of a Texan. So I've always wondered, like, who's that guy? I gotta look him up one day.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, there's all these people that are just, and what's funny is a lot of times they're actual name actors, that are in these things, and it's just like nobody even really realizes, that it's like, oh, I didn't know. And what's funny is, especially in the case of this, it's like how many movies this guy was in that are some of my favorite films of all time, and even I didn't realize that. And to me, that's the sign of a good actor.
Yep.
Because it's a lot of these guys that are underrated, these character actors, like William H. Macy. He's another one. Totally another one. That he's one of those guys that can play, just about any kind of role you can think of. But what I really enjoy about that, and it's the same thing with William Hootkins, is the fact that they can, you almost forget who they actually are. It's like they can seamlessly blend into their role. Whereas you get a lot of guys like a Tommy Lee Jones or, even a Harrison Ford at this point, or a DiCaprio or any of these guys. They're good actors, but, it's them and they're playing this role.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily, or unfortunately if they get typecast, like True. With William Shatner, right? It's like, oh, there's Captain Kirk playing a cop, or there's Captain Kirk doing this, or but they're always going to be that one role.
Yep.
And Harrison Ford was actually lucky because he was able to get out of that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing, that he was really kind of very adamant about, really, as far as his career is concerned, is playing different kind of characters. And that, unfortunately, like, he didn't feel that the character Han Solo had much to offer, so that's why he always
still don't get that.
He still wanted him to be killed.
I would love to get him on the show just so I could debate that. Of course, the reality is I'd probably be like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Ford.
Wow, this is a lot. Dark Sage 9117.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, read that for me. I got all these graphics on the page. I can't even do it.
I think Disney was doomed to fail with Star Wars no matter what they did. It is impossible to please a fan base as big as Star Wars and give everyone exactly what they wanted. Did Disney make mistakes? Absolutely, yes. But I think they let their ego get in the way and do what they wanted to do rather than listen to the fans and to an extent. I give them credit for trying something new, but I think they were doomed to fail regardless of what happened.
Right, and then, of course, Darren follows up, but good luck getting Ford. It could happen. It could happen.
Yeah, a better chance of getting Henry Ford in here.
Yeah, right. Well, it was funny because I feel so stupid, but for a while I was kind of like, hey, it might be kind of cool to write to William Hootkins and see if he'd be willing. And then I'm like, oh, he was been dead since like 2005. Yeah, I guess that's not going to happen.
Give the Jack Nicholson. He's dead now.
But again, I mean, it's like, see, here's how you do it. You actually go after like some of the minor characters, right? Like Daniel Logan, guy that played the young Boba Fett in Attack of the Clones. He actually liked a couple of our posts and everything on Instagram, and I think he alluded something to our podcast at some point. So I don't know if he's like, if it was kind of like a one and done thing, or if he actually listens to us every week. But he would be the type of guy that you can, he seems like he's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And it's not like trying to get Mark Hamill or something. It's like you go after some of the more minor characters, people that regularly do the whole convention circuit and stuff like that, but not people that are like so huge that, you'd have no hope. Like, yeah, next week we're going to have George Lucas as a guest. I wish.
All right. Pablo Hidalgo joins us next week.
Yeah, right. Kathleen Kennedy or Favreau or one of these guys. It's like, I mean, you guys will have to do a lot better at sharing this and help us get some more listeners before I think that we can get to that point.
We'll definitely have them. They show up on the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'd see the third little, pip in there, so it would actually have them. But yeah, absolutely. But to Darksage's point, though, I agree. One of the things that we've been talking about is that Disney doesn't necessarily listen to their fans, or I should say, to the Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think they do to some extent, but I think they second guess themselves. To me, that's what it seems like. It seems like they second guess, like, all right, we want to give them this. And it's kind of hard, like you said, trying to please all the Star Wars fans is very hard because on one hand, it's like, all right, we want to see the lightsaber duels that we see in the prequels, but at the same time, we want things to be more expansive and take us to something place we've never seen before. And then we want these different type of characters, but now you have to explain all this stuff. And I think, like, once again, I think that's one of the downfalls of planning. It's just that the lack of it, I should say. And I just really feel like they should have really, not even so much, like I say, even the story, but like, okay, even if they wanted to do the story or tell the story that they told with us from Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker. Okay, fine. But at least make that the plan. Like, at least plan it that way. Versus,
hey, you're the one going off on this tangent for once. Yeah, I didn't have to bring it up.
Yeah, just plan it that way. And I think that's just really the biggest thing, because I think if you plan it that way, now you would catch a lot of this stuff, or a lot of things would kind of like, okay, let's make this make sense. And I think that's really what the big thing about Star Wars fans is, kind of like, we want things to make sense. And I think you can expand a lot of different things. You can expand a lot of different characters. But I think that's where, hopefully, going into the newer films, and now we're moving away from the Skywalker saga, because that's the thing. It's like, all right, well, when you're bringing the old people back, you have to explain things now. What have they been doing all this time? What happened? And blah, blah. So you have to kind of tell their story the right way that's satisfactory to the fans. And I understand what Mark Hamill was saying. Like, he felt like at first this is something that Luke Skywalker wouldn't do. The man's only been playing him since forever. So, I mean, it's kind of like he kind of has that grip, and he actually got along with George. So it's like he really did understand the character of Luke Skywalker, as opposed to somebody like Harrison Ford. He really didn't get along with George at first. They've patched things up, and then he wasn't really in love with Han Solo like that anyway. So, but to take someone like Mark Hamill, though, who really truly understands his character, and especially for The Last Jedi, I would have leaned heavily on that, just because.
Well, here, read Darksage's text.
All right.
Because this actually has to do with what you're talking about.
Okay. I will say, though, I was not upset about how Luke was portrayed. As someone who read and grew up with the expanded universe, I did not want Grandmaster Luke who could pull Star Destroyers out of the sky. Did I want what Disney gave us? No, not exactly. But I can appreciate that it was something new. Would I have made Luke that way? No. I think.
See, this is a thing that I think that where the last. Now, of course, we were sort of the same thing. That we actually thought that it was kind of brave and kind of cool what they did with Luke in The Last Jedi, and it actually was a little bit more realistic, probably, just based on things. I mean, you could have realistically gone the other way too. You could have still made him a hero, just maybe not, like Darksaber's saying, like Grandmaster Luke or something.
Well, see, I think the problem is, I think that we got a good version of Luke. I just think he was the grumpy man too long in the movie.
Yeah, kind of like maybe he should have been that way at first, but then come around and then...
Maybe by the time... I'm trying to get okay, maybe by the time when Rey... Wish he had that duel with Rey. When he had that duel with Rey.
Mm-hmm. I was just
that
about
moment,
to say that.
That moment right there... I mean, and it kind of happened because, it was like, okay, after Rey kind of left, that's when he went to go burn down the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of roughly around that time. But I think that's when, I think there should have been a moment where they kind of regrouped and then, okay, let's go get my sister and bail them out of this situation.
Well, and a lot of it comes down to, one of the things, going back to one of the earlier points, was one of the reasons why you cannot please Star Wars fans right now is because, unlike back when the original trilogy was out, or even the prequels, you have all these generations now of fans that came up during a different period.
Right.
And, you've got fans that are 50, 60, 70 years old, and then, of course, you have ones that are coming up that are like 10, 15, 20, and everything in between. It's like now everybody kind of wants something different from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the core basically remains the same, but everybody wants something a little bit different. And it's, it's kind of like these guys were saying. It's like there's no way that you can make a movie to please everybody.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think with Rogue One, that pleased most people. So it showed that it can be done, but I think you just have to have the right people doing it. But the problem was with the saga, it's a continuation. It's not a standalone. So it's designed to to continue. So when you're looking at passing the torch from Harrison Ford to Poe Dameron, from Leia to Rey, or Luke to Rey, and then you got Finn, you're trying to pass that torch. I think you really do have to kind of figure out okay, what is the best way? I always felt like you bring these guys back, they kind of all right, well, this is what we almost let's do what we always do type thing. Kind of how Han said in Force Awakens, just, we've blown stuff up there this before.
Right. Let's just
do that.
It's like another Death Star. Let's just blow it up.
Yeah.
It's what we always done.
Right. So,
that was actually one of the things that I thought was the most funny thing in the world.
yeah.
He was really the big comic relief in that movie to me.
Oh, definitely.
Even though the jokes were flying like crazy in there. Even BB-8 had some moments. But, Han was... That was actually, honestly, probably one of my favorite portrayals of Han, because he was kind of hilarious.
Yeah. And I think that, that would have been a moment. I probably would have said, let's kill Han off in Last Jedi. I think that would have been the move to make. So I would have had him, lead everybody, because once again, I think it would have been a full circle thing. When we first met Han Solo, he had no interest in rebellions and all that other crap. He was like, look, I'm just in here for the money. But now to see the more evolved Han, now he understands, how the universe works, and he's more conscientious about, of course, especially with his son being at the helm of all this, it's okay, I have to be at the forefront of this. It's my kid.
It's kind of tough to ignore.
Yeah, it's, my kid's kind of destroying the galaxy.
Point, right? Yeah, my kid's basically the new Vader now. So
yeah, so I would have done something to the point of Han would have gotten us through the first movie as the hero and showed you basically hey, look, hey kid, everybody doesn't start off wanting to be the hero, but sometimes you have to. That would have done something for Finn. Finn would have saw that narrative and be like, wow, okay, That makes sense. And then, that would have gave him a chance to meet up with Rey. I mean, not Rey, but Leia. They had their moment. And then at the very end, maybe bring in Luke at the very end where they have at least that one screen time. Like, man, it's been a long time. It's like, hey, Han, and then it's like, oh, the gang's back together. Now, in the beginning of Last Jedi, Rey and Luke go off to kind of start the training aspect of it. Or he's kind of reluctant to take her.
Yeah, I mean, that could have worked. The thing is, I think that Han was supposed to be kind of like the Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Especially since they were trying to hit the same beats as 4.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he more or less had to die. Not to mention, I think that was probably a contractual thing for
definitely.
Harrison Ford to even return. Like, look, I'll return, but you have to kill me this time.
Yes.
Yeah, so the chat's been kind of active. So Ronaldo is basically saying, yeah, bring Daniel. He also says, Luke is kind of like Superman. If you change him too much, fans may think, yeah, I mean, it's true. If you change him too much, he could be considered out of character. He's like, but I think that unlike Superman, though, Luke actually has some complexity. And again, not that Superman doesn't. I mean, I actually thought that Superman was a little bit more of a complex character than people give him credit for, especially when you read the comics.
And when you also see Smallville.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the expanded... Because if you think about it, Smallville's kind of like the expanded universe of DC or something.
I mean, but even with the movies, if you just stuck to the movies, you kind of saw the whole, okay, how do I live in this world and be human, quote unquote, but...
Yeah, actually, honestly, I think Smallville was one of the things that was one of the best things that ever happened to the whole Superman thing.
Definitely. But also, like, with was it Superman 4? That's the one with the evil Superman, basically almost like a Bizarro type.
Yeah, that was actually like super, well, depends on how you look at things. Yeah, you talking about the Sun Man?
No.
Where Superman actually was kind of bad for a while?
Yeah.
That was 3.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one. So,
where he's like flicking peanuts at like
that was
high
awesome.
speed.
I love that Superman, honestly. But
yeah, that Superman could have been so much better if they had gone with the original script.
And see, that's kind of how people felt about Rise of Skywalker. Like if you would have kept the Colin Trevorrow script, everybody would have loved.
Nice segue. Well, I gotta do this one.
Oh my God. No, he didn't.
He did.
But we can all agree that the holiday special was the best Star Wars movie ever made.
All right, but hold on. There's a part 2 to this one. And don't you dare say it was not. We all love the holiday special. Little secret. As bad as a holiday special generally is, it's one of those things, again, I like cheesy things. I like... there's like
Sharknado and all those.
Well, yeah, there's like a certain kitschiness to it. I mean, plus it's just so bizarre. It's like this bizarre drug hallucinogenic trip or something in the Star Wars universe. Like if Luke dropped acid or something. Yeah, this is pretty much what they would
Star
see.
Wars on spice.
I mean, it's just bizarre. It's got all these like weird musical numbers in it, and it's... it's so out of place. And you just know Harrison Ford was like, I can't believe I'm even doing this.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm actually surprised that he did this. My whole thing is, okay.
That's why he probably fell out with George. Right after that moment.
Well,
like,
I mean, the thing that blows my mind, it's like, okay, you're refusing to appear in, like this Star Wars thing or whatever, but you were in the holiday special. You said, okay.
That was the last straw.
And he says that Porkins was the best pilot in the galaxy as well. Fact that he died, though.
I mean,
Well, the thing that's funny about that...
Poor Porkins.
Well, here's the thing that if you really stop and analyze the whole X-Wing battle, like any of the battles, the trench run from A New Hope, probably like the whole attack on the second Death Star...
Mm-hmm.
from Return of the Jedi. And, even some of the prequel stuff. It's interesting to see, because you know that in a movie like this, they have to have a bunch of pilots that are going to die, because not everybody can survive. That wouldn't be realistic.
Right.
I also like the fact that sometimes, not always, but sometimes they'll actually kill off somebody that would be weird. Like, for instance, the fact that Wedge actually survives every encounter, I kind of like that. Because he's one of those secondary characters that, you know, it's, I don't know, it's weird. It's comforting to see him appearing in all the movies, or at least a lot of them.
Well, here's the thing about that, though. It's like, and that's what's funny about the whole, you know, the Battle of Yavin and Endor is that, you know, with most of their pilots, it was kind of like that whole Independence Day thing, where like a lot of them were like, you know, you're going against the Empire where they actually are trained pilots, and this is what they do. You got like a bunch of farmers and, you know, electricians trying to run around and fly X-Wings in this whole battle. And that's what made it kind of funny and cool. And at the same time, it's like, you know, well, most of these guys deserve to die. I mean, if you really think about it, because,
well, yeah, I mean,
you know, that's like us going up and it's like, okay, we're about to go against
that's the thing. And if any of you guys know the answer to this, please feel free. Darren, you have particular responsibility in this, since you're the one that actually brought this whole thing in the first place. But how good was Porkins actually?
How good?
Darkseid seems to think he's like the best in the, you know, pilot in the galaxy, right?
Although I appreciate his participation in the chats. I find it a little.
He's about to go off.
I'm going to have to question his.
Probably being like
facetious. He's definitely being facetious about this. But yeah.
But it does bring up a good point, though. It's like when you actually, because you actually said, you know, okay, a lot of these guys, you know, were just like something else. You know, they weren't necessarily fighters. I mean, they're rebels. You know, they were. Obviously, like some of them were trained.
Yeah, some of them weren't. Yeah, some people knew how to fly. Like, you know, it's almost like I say, for those who've seen, you know, the first Independence Day with Will Smith.
I was just thinking that, too.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it was. It was like a kind of a cattle call. Like, all right, anybody got any flight experience? It's like, well, you know, I dusted crops. And, you know, so that's pretty much what you had in the rebellion. And you're just hoping that, these guys could act. Some guys were actually military trained. And then you actually had some who were just like.
You know what? I was gonna hang with you on that, but you can't compare that. It would be more comparable to say like maybe driving in a NASCAR race, because you have to remember that in the Star Wars universe, everybody flies. They might not necessarily fly combat missions, but everybody basically flies. So it's not like, you know, an Independence Day where, you know, half those people probably never, it's like, okay, do you have any flying experience? Well, a little. I mean, you can make the comparison a little bit, but it's still a little different, because I'm sure, you know, a lot of these guys had to either evade capture or something.
Well, yeah, I get that. I'm just saying in the military, that's why I said it's almost, because, yeah, like, even if you took the Independence Day guys, like, okay, you got all people who are pilots, so it's still relative. Like, everybody can fly. That's why they ask for pilots. Well, but my thing is, like, to try to militarize them, though, it's like, okay, you actually have to have, like, okay, you taking somebody who's just like
getting like some influence from this little canvas print behind you.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of a
sudden, like, you're.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got guys who are actually like Luke, for example. I mean, he's a farm boy. He flies his little speeder around, and, you know, he had a little T-16, whatever, back home.
That he was targeting womp rats.
Okay.
That are barely 3 meters in length.
Okay, fine. Well and good. But you're going against a huge space station where you got cannons firing at you. You've got these Imperial, like, TIE fighters who are military trained shooting at you. Yeah, you're not having that on Tatooine. I'm sorry.
You never know, man.
No, man.
You know, I mean, the womp rats could actually be like attack womp rats or something.
Attack womp rats.
I'm just saying that
this would be a duel in the face now.
Yeah, right. But you never really know the experience of these guys, and that's my point. It's like it would be interesting to know.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody
like,
had
Porkins.
Well, everybody did have a different experience level, because, like, if you remember, like, Luke mentioned, he's like, well, you know, I want to go join the academy. So there was an academy, and that's what Biggs went.
And that's it. I mean, a lot of these guys were studying to go into the Empire and stuff like that, find out they're not so good, and now they're going to fight them. So they do have some training. And that's my whole point. It's like it would be nice to know where, say, Porkins falls in all this. Like, is he one of those guys that...
He barely graduated?
He just didn't really know? Or is he one of those guys that was more of a trained... It would be interesting to see, like Wedge. Wedge is just like, if he's not trained, he's just a naturally gifted pilot.
Well, no, Wedge was actually in the Imperial thing, remember?
That's right. Yeah,
Wedge, he defected. Yeah.
Yes.
That's why he was so good.
Literally everybody can fly in Star Wars. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Darkseid just got like just paragraphs of questions for us, so we're gonna have to get to in a second.
It's like the Star Wars ACT.
It pretty much is. Oh, they're good questions, though, and definitely worth addressing. So, to wrap up the whole idea, though, of the flying and all this, I would just like to know where on the scale, because let's just say Wedge is at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was an Imperial that defected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's obviously trained. So he would be like kind of at the upper bigs, too, because... he was
kind of sucked to me, but yeah.
Well,
I know. Yeah.
I mean, what they were supposed to be, though.
Yeah,
what they were
got
supposed to be. And that's it. I mean, I just think that it would be interesting to see like where these guys all ranked, because you don't really know. Just because some guy gets killed instantly doesn't necessarily mean he was bad. I mean,
no, he just got caught.
He just got caught, or a superior pilot took him down.
Mm-hmm. And
that's what I think happened in a lot of the cases of, especially the trench run. And then it almost seemed like a lot of them were new to X-Wings anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, because
they were talking about...
Well, once again, like, it's a military ship. Once again, like, you have armaments on that thing, and it's, there's certain things that you just don't have probably on a normal, on a normal thing that you would have on your home world or something like that.
All right, well, read this comment, because this is one thing that's baffling Darkseid here.
All right. Why was the tracking beacon on the capital ship when the Sith Eternal Fleet was on Exegol?
See, we could teach you to read while you're...
Did no one stop and think, hey, the rebellion is going to attack the main ship where our tracking beacon is, which also connects to the Death Star...
lasers.
But I got that part. I was confused because the Death Star wasn't in Rise of Skywalker.
No, but it's got the Death Star lasers. Remember, there was Death Star lasers on each one of the Star Destroyers?
Oh, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
When he said a Death Star laser, I thought he meant the actual Death Star.
No. Because that was the whole point. That was the big thing. Is like, oh, they all got these like Death Star lasers, which was another point I'm not going to go into.
Would have not made more sense to put it on the ground or even on another ship.
Yeah, the tracking beacon thing. Look, you can sit there and say all kinds of little things about the Rise of Skywalker, because again, this is going to our bigger point, and that is that there wasn't a whole lot of planning involved in this. Everybody got to basically choose their own adventure. So you had J.J. Abrams, who established everything with The Force Awakens. Then Rian Johnson picks up where that left off. He was basically allowed to do his whole thing. Like, whatever he wanted to do. Okay, then Colin Trevorrow was supposed to pick up from there. He ended up getting fired or quit. Mm-hmm. It kind of depends on which version you're really going with. Either way, Lucasfilm decided to pass on his script. They brought JJ back. Now it's up to JJ to sort of pick up the pieces and, figure out what they left off. What they should have done was put them all in a room and hashed out a story.
Well, I mean, to answer his question, though, I think you also have to look at, once again, the arrogance. You got to understand, like, you got a whole military, like this whole giant fleet of these massive Star Destroyers, and at that time, the galaxy was in fear. Like no one answered their call, like when in The Last Jedi, because everybody was terrified. I mean, you got a Star Killer base.
Well, now how many years was it? 1, 2? I keep forgetting how many years were between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. It's not more than 2. I think it was just 1.
Yeah, I think it might have been 1 year.
Yeah, I think it was a year.
But like I said, even in that time, because if that was the case, why didn't they all show up? And, so I just think that the empires, or, they're looking at it from the standpoint of, or the final order, whichever one you want to call them. It's like, what do they really have that's going to stop us? We have, as he said, the Death Star powered lasers on each ship.
Well, he goes on to say, I know it's a movie, but still that was baffling to me because you would have assumed they would have learned their lesson from that, or at least tried something else. And that's part of it is poetry. You're right. It's just a movie, but that's not, when I say that, I don't mean it the way that most people would, where it's like, dude, it's just a movie, chill. Because, we do this show.
Right.
So, I mean, that would disqualify me from saying anything like that. But you have to remember that, like any art, there's certain, it's almost like music. It's like certain motifs. There's things that repeat. It's, it's following a story beat, stuff like that. There are things that make good stories that aren't necessarily realistic or even logical at times, because that's one of the problems. But what I'm saying is, even beyond all that, you have problems trying to explain this stuff because you have people just coming in and trying to pretty much retrofit whatever. It's kind of like something that you had said a long time ago, one of the other shows that we did, where you're like, JJ probably should have just wrote the entire story arc, then let everybody put their own spin on it. But at least the story would be contained.
Yeah.
Because, the Death Star laser thing on the ships, I mean, it was kind of a cool idea, I guess, but there's a lot of problems with it, though.
But what I mean, when you look at things, it's like, okay, what else are you really going to do? Like, I mean, to me, it made sense because I think I looked at it from the standpoint of,
what else are you going to do? The whole storyline of Timothy Zahn's 7, 8, and 9. None of that was derivative.
Well, no, I'm just talking about based upon like.
You talking about based on like episode 9, so like you're 7 and 8 are there.
Yeah,
it's like
you
know what else you're gonna do? What Colin Trevorrow wanted to do.
But I would say this. I would say, like, if you're going to try to control a bunch of systems, is what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to try to control a bunch of planets, how are you going to keep them in line? And you keep them in line by, like, okay, of course, when you had the Death Star, okay, that thing can travel through hyperspace, but it's one object. If you're talking about Starkiller Base, okay, yeah, it has the capacity to reach a bunch. Its firepower can reach different planets and multiple planets at the same time and destroy them. Okay.
Yeah, I actually thought that was kind of a cool idea. I mean, I know a lot of people said that that's kind of derivative or whatever, and, but then again, you could say the Sun Crusher from the expanded universe was somewhat derivative too, but I thought that was a cool idea as well.
But to me, like, to actually have Star Destroyer ships that actually have the capacity, the firepower capacity of a Death Star laser, now that's ingenious to me, because it's like, now you can spread out across the galaxy and there's nowhere you can run or hide where they can't get you.
Don't get me wrong, I think the concept's great. It's just, there's a lot, with the execution. Now, Darkseid goes on to say, and I also wonder, since Palpatine died again, can he not come back? I know in the Dark Empire comics, he cloned himself and transferred his essence into another body. So if Vader killed him and he used essence transfer, what's to stop him from doing that again? That's exactly right.
Exactly.
They can milk the Emperor thing as long as they want, simply because they had the cloning technology. In fact, not only was it in the whole Dark Empire thing, but Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy, it's kind of tough to say. In Zahn's Thrawn trilogy was the same basic premise.
Well, that's one of the cool things that, people are always wondering, like, well, how do, you do the whole clone thing? Well, it's like, well, we had the Clone Wars. I mean, like, Kamino was like the first planet that's really like showed that you can clone a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I honestly think that cloning has been underused in Star Wars, period, because that opens the door to a whole bunch of different stories that they haven't even begun to explore yet. So,
because if I were Palpatine, I would just say, like, okay, let me just clone myself like a billion times.
Infinitely.
Yeah. And I just have a whole army of Palpatines.
Now, the only thing that you could say about the end of The Rise of Skywalker, though, And this is what would be interesting, because they don't even really cover it in the novel. And like I said, the novelization of that movie really did cover a lot of different, like it filled a bunch of plot holes. The Palpatine thing was the source of the plot holes. The problem, though, is that if you read the novel, it fills in a lot of the plot holes. And the reason why I say that that's a problem is because these are the things that should have been done in a movie. You've heard me say this a gazillion times.
If you introduce it in the movie, you have to...
Yes. If you introduce it in a movie, then you have to actually explain it in a movie or address it in a movie. So there is that. But yeah, I thought that was ingenious too. By the way, since we had that interruption in the stream, all the chats disappeared. So, feel free to get it going again. I remember most of it though. There was a lot of talk about the Rise of Skywalker, of course, and the plot holes. And, quite frankly, that's going to be an issue. That is going to be an issue. Where the sequel trilogy is forever going to be marred by the fact that it wasn't planned properly. It wasn't entirely executed properly. And that's why, you're going to be able to nitpick it to death. Mm-hmm. But story-wise, it wasn't bad. I mean, you do have a good point about the whole... Star Destroyer laser thing. I mean, what a better way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, that's more the smarter way, I guess, if you want to control stuff. Because, I mean, when you start talking about, like, okay, well, why is the beacon on this ship? Because the rebels are going to go try to find that. Well, I mean, why didn't Luke Skywalker, that's the same question you got to ask. Well, why didn't Luke Skywalker just crush or pull Star Destroyers out of the sky? Or, what I'm saying? Like, he has all this power. Why not use it? Because, then again, you're making things too powerful.
Well,
like
now you've got the whole Jedi problem, which now that becomes like the Superman problem.
Thing. Right. And
whereas, yes, you are correct that it's one of those things that if you introduce something like the Force and this various masteries of it, then yeah, you have a problem. It's like, why not go all the way?
Yeah, because I mean, we haven't really truly explored like how powerful like a Grandmaster truly is. I mean, and that's the thing about the movies that we haven't really seen. That's one thing I loved about the Clone Wars. Is like watching, that is that they actually can kind of go into it and show you like some amazing Force abilities. That's like, yeah, these are out here. Like watching that whole, like I was starting to tell you earlier today when I was watching the episode of the brother, the sister, and the father, and the fact that, like, all right, they've got their lightsabers drawn out and he's actually grabbing the lightsaber. And it doesn't, that was so like, cool. I was just like, whoa, like that's just amazing to me, or the fact that they can actually shapeshift and the fact that they can actually do all this stuff. So it's like, that's what made me think about the whole Ahsoka thing. But that's a whole nother conversation. But, so I think that's the cool thing about the Clone Wars is that you can actually delve and really explore the Force and the different abilities that people can have and things of that nature, where in the movies, it would be cool to see. But then, of course, now people are like, oh, well, now he's too powerful.
And I've noticed that you have different things. You have movie fans, and then you have the Star Wars fan. Like, there's some Star Wars fans that are only fans within the context of the movies. And speaking of which, Ronaldo's basically saying, would we ever see a movie with the Skywalkers again? I think the answer to that depends on which Skywalkers.
Are you referring to like Rey, or are you talking about like?
Well, I mean, it could be anything really, because if you think about it, they're thinking of featuring Vader in a couple of the Disney Plus series. Mm. There could be another standalone. Well, I shouldn't say another because there hasn't been one, but a standalone Vader film.
I hope so. Please do it before James O dies. That's all I'm saying. Like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said, man. They better like sample him saying the alphabet, like every word they can think of. Yeah, reading out of the dictionary or whatever. Because I mean, he's up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're gonna do it, like in the words of Schwarzenegger, do it now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's entirely possible. I mean, you bring up the whole Rey Skywalker thing. Sure, there's that. They could do some prequel stuff with Ben Solo, technically a Skywalker. They could have. I mean, everybody has said that they would love to see Sebastian Stan play Luke Skywalker, like a younger version. They could do that. I don't think that you're going to see one for a while, though. Standalone Babu Frick movie. Oh. Yes. Of course, the thing would have to be like subtitled the whole time.
Man, I think it's like watching like one of those old kung fu movies.
Well, the thing that's funny about that, though, if you really think about it, is the fact that, again, it goes back to, once again, I mean, us talking about William Hootkins and things like that. It's like, I just think that there's just not enough focus on some of these side characters that they could really go off and do something with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would love to see, you know, you and I are both being huge Top Gun fans.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we're disappointed that, you know, we're not watching Top Gun this
Yeah,
summer.
I mean, it was supposed to be out this month, actually.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yep.
Like, we would have seen it by now.
But I would love to just see a Rogue Squadron movie.
Well,
just
why not?
The
I mean, they've done.
It's almost like,
sure, they've done the books. Why not do the movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would totally.
So that
be
way
cool.
you can cover Porkins' actual.
Yeah, but now they got to have another guy playing them, and
Yeah, it would be a young Porkins.
young Porkins. That would be the movie that they would
Little
announce
pork rind
too.
or whatever.
I just can't. But you know what? Again, I mean, to wrap up the whole William Hootkins thing, even though we've got way away from it a lot of times, but that's the beautiful part about doing these live shows. The fact that, you know, you guys will bring up anything and we're all about it. Like I said, we got these, like, you know, these topics that we're talking about or whatever, but it doesn't matter. You know, whatever you guys are chatting in, we're going to talk about. That's what this whole thing is about. And I should mention that, you know, if you like this discussion and, you know, you're into this, hit that subscribe button, like this video, you know, share it with your friends, whatever. But I think it's time for us to do some battle. What do you think?
Hey, man, let's go for it.
All right. What's next?
Next, we have Duel of the Fates.
All right. Who are we putting up against who here?
All right. We have the most unique Jedi between Master Quinlan Voss and Master Plo Koon.
So what were you smoking or whatever that made you come up with this thing? I mean, I was looking at this going, this is
different.
And these two guys.
Yeah, why these two?
Clone Wars, maybe.
That's what. So that's
I'm trying to think of like what were these guys in that would have even put these two on the same map.
Well, I mean, I just started thinking about, like, you know, once again we were talking about Jedi powers and abilities, and you know, there's some Jedi who there's different like classifications of even a Jedi Knight. So you have some who are like guardians, some are sentinels, and then some are more like knowledge based. And so, you know, we have, and of course the Jedi Council is comprised of pretty much almost like all the different factions, I guess, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, watching the Clone Wars, you know, I was watching Quinlan Voss, and I remember reading, you know, some of the stuff about him, and he just had some unique abilities, and of course, like his sarcasm and his attitude towards things was just like hilarious and great. But you know, it also made me think about like Plo Koon though, because it's like he's always been one of my favorite characters, just because he's always kind of had a cool vibe to me for whatever reason.
Well, here's another one that they expanded him quite a bit in the Clone Wars series.
And
I mean, a lot.
And I love that, you know, because especially when you find out his relationship with Ahsoka and everything like that. So I started, you know, doing some research about these two, and you know, there are a lot of different Jedi have a lot of different, I guess, attributes. And one of the things about Plo Koon is that he can actually manipulate atmospheres and things like that. Like he can actually cause like earthquakes, windstorms, and all this different type of stuff.
So he's like the storm of
or
Star
like
Wars.
Captain Planet or something. You know, like so I thought that was really cool. And then, you know, of course, Quinlan Voss, I loved his ability to he's kind of like a tracker. Almost like a native, and he kind of has that Native American look and vibe to him. So I thought that was an interesting, I guess I don't want to say twist, but an interesting,
like an
attribute or perspective of a Star Wars Jedi to almost have like almost like a Native American style Jedi where he actually is like about the land. He can actually touch different objects, and he can kind of use that to track. Okay, a person was here. He was.
Yeah,
there.
he's almost like Sonny Landham's character from Predator.
Yeah,
That's kind of what that reminds me of, actually. And of course, one of my favorite appearances of Quinlan Vos of all time didn't even happen in a series or a movie or anything like that. It was actually in the book Dark Disciples, which of course was based on an unproduced episode of the Clone Wars. And that gives you a lot of insight into him. If you guys are a Quinlan Vos fan, or if he's somebody where you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind knowing more about this guy.
Yeah.
You definitely want to read that book.
And especially like his relationship like with Asajj and
yeah, I mean that's just like they end up falling in love and it's really bizarre.
Yeah, and it's like this he's a different kind of Jedi. He's just really unique in his own way, but I think Plo Koon is very unique because he kind of has that Obi-Wan Kenobi vibe with a little bit of Mace Windu. And
he also, I'm trying to remember, but he can't survive in like a normal atmosphere. That's why he's got to wear that mask or something.
Yeah, the mask and goggles.
Gas or something that he breathes or whatever.
From his planet, he they have a different type of atmosphere, and even like the talents that he has on his fingertips he has very sensitive fingertips. So, just different alien attributes.
See, so if you're talking uniqueness, are we talking physical? Because obviously Plo Koon has that.
He has the advantage. No, in respects to like being
unique
a Jedi.
Among the Jedi.
Among the Jedi.
Oh, that's tough. Ronaldo basically says Quinlan has a cameo in Phantom Menace. Was it Phantom Menace? I know he's mentioned in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
They were actually mentioning him. That was one of the things.
I don't know. Phantom Menace?
Yeah, unless...
What scene?
Well...
Yeah, I want to know now.
I know. There could have been a deleted scene or something, because I remember there was talk about stuff like that, because one of the things that George liked to do is he would take stuff from the expanded universe, and it's basically like,
You like cherry pick some stuff?
Yeah, well, just kind of like throwing the fans a bone kind of a thing, like, okay, I know you really like this character, so I'll throw him in the movie. Now it makes him canon. That's what he used to do, because everybody forgets in the old expanded universe, it was like, you would have like, you'd have the canon stuff, which was basically anything that George made. And then it came down to whatever mood he was in that day, because he would sign off on certain storylines, but it was kind of like, well, if I didn't do it, it's not canon. It's almost like, you get these stories or whatever that you can read and enjoy, but that doesn't necessarily make it official.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that George would do is that, fans would write in or there would be interviews or something, and, he would be like, okay, well, that thing is canon, that's not, whatever. And he would just go through the expanded universe and do that. When he started making the prequel trilogy, he then started kind of like what you were talking about, cherry pick different aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing he did was he killed a lot of it too, 'cause as I've often said, the whole Boba Fett backstory, gone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of books and stuff that had that in there, and they're just basically like,
relics,
like fan fiction at that point, because it's like now it's no more. And of course he always had the right to do that, and we all know that, but it's just interesting to me what he would pick and what he would choose. But again, yeah, it's when you bring it down to these two guys.
Yeah, I'm talking about solely as Jedi, as masters. What do you think?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go with Quinlan Vos.
Mm.
Only because it's like you said, Plo Koon, he's a mixture of some common Jedi that we know. He's more like pretty much like an old wizened Jedi, another Mace, another Yoda. Don't get me wrong, those guys are unique too, but Quinlan's got, especially if you read Dark Disciple, that actually gives you the most knowledge about him. But he's got like a different outlook.
Okay, let me ask you this question. Maybe this would be even better. Who do you think is more of a rebel, Quinlan Vos or Qui-Gon?
Wow. No. That'd have to be like another Duel of the Fates. You can't make me... That's actually tough.
Yeah.
Because actually, Quinlan was influenced by Qui-Gon in that respect.
Yep.
He actually brings him up quite a bit. So, I mean, it's really a difficult thing to say because, I don't know. So now Ronaldo says, I think Plo Koon would win. He seems more experienced and wiser. Yes. He probably, well, I don't know.
He is on the console.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Plo would, in a battle, he would probably win. But what we're debating here is most unique.
Yeah, I think.
See, I wish it was who would win in a battle. We would have been off of this.
Well, I think who's the most unique? I think Quinlan Voss is the most unique just because of his character, his perspective, his Jedi abilities, just the way he goes about doing things.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many different elements to his character. You know?
You almost don't really know. He's almost kind of like an anti-hero, if you will.
Yeah.
Like he's got a little. He's got some dark stuff to him, but it's not to the point where...
Well, that's why I would say he's a little bit more, you had asked between him and Qui-Gon. I would still take Voss because Voss is he's got a little mace in him. He's a little shady. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not afraid to bring a little bit of the dark side in.
Nope.
But at the same time, there is a nobility to him as well.
True.
And I think that these are the things that you pretty much have to look at whenever you're, looking at... And again, I mean, when you're talking about uniqueness of character, first of all, it's kind of tough because neither one of these guys... I mean, granted, Plo Koon is featured quite a bit in the Clone Wars. I actually was surprised...
Me too.
When viewing the Clone Wars again, like, man... This guy's like especially like season 2.
Yep.
He's in like every episode practically.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing about him. I think it's funny because just watching him teach Ahsoka things was very interesting. But then also watching like Quinlan kind of talk with Obi-Wan about some stuff. But the fact that they had that commonality in Qui-Gon, with Qui-Gon being like the master to Obi-Wan, but Quinlan being influenced a lot by Qui-Gon, you kind of like, Obi-Wan's like, oh my God, like this again, and then he kind of sees that in Anakin too. So it's like, can you imagine like if Anakin was Quinlan's apprentice or Padawan?
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where it's just like you have all these different, and it does make you wonder like, okay, well, how would certain Jedi turn out if they had different masters? But I think overall,
that's another good question.
Yeah, because I mean, I like I say, even watching the Clone Wars, like I said, I just finished the whole series where Anakin was on Mortis and he was doing that whole thing with the father, the daughter, and the son, and they're basically like on this planet that's basically contrived of the Force, and I'm just amazed at how. When they were showing Anakin's future, it was kind of like, okay, well, and Obi-Wan had a vision with Qui-Gon, and he's like, well, I believe he's the chosen one. I've taught him all that I can, but it's like he's still reckless. He's still, he still has that side that I can't stop him from being.
Well, you and I have speculated a lot. Like, what would have happened if Qui-Gon hadn't died?
Yeah.
And Anakin had been his apprentice. Because honestly, I think that Qui-Gon would have been a better master for him.
He would have been because he would have understood him a lot more.
Yeah, he would have understood him a lot more. And I think he would have been better at knowing when to let him go a little bit, when to pull back. Mm-hmm. He would, I think, have been able to explain the behavior a little bit better. If he was pulling back, he probably would have said, okay, here's why. I think that Anakin would have responded better because he would have seen a little bit of himself in Qui-Gon. Mm-hmm. I just think it's a great point because if you start taking a bunch of people and saying, okay, what if this person had been their master instead of this person?
Well, and even in that, there was that same scene. Ahsoka had a vision of her older self, which I've forgotten about.
Oh, yeah.
And she was basically warning Ahsoka, like, no, he's like, you got to stop following Anakin. Otherwise, he's going to lead you down a dark path. So you're gonna have to leave him alone. And
Is it a bad thing that I would have loved to have seen a dark Ahsoka?
Well, we kind of did.
Well, I know, but I mean, there was that in that episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. It kind of whet the appetite. I was like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I think we saw a dark everybody except for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Obi-Wan's never a dark Obi-Wan would just be. I wouldn't even know what that would be like.
That'd be wasted. But yeah, I just think that, you know, with these different type of Jedi, you know, looking at the personality where Ki-Adi-Mundi obviously is more like the cerebral, he's more the thought-provoking type of Jedi. Plo Koon is kind of more of a warrior, but he's kind of but at the same time he does have that kind of calmness and that I got it under control type situation. He's kind of, but at the same time he could be assertive.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mace. Mace is definitely just, he's Mace.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then, so when you look at these things like that, you know, it's like, okay, well, wow, like, how do these different Jedi kind of fall under the same mission statement, if you will, when you have all these stark different personalities?
I know. No, it's a good point. And, you know, Reynaldo brings up, I think I would give Plo Koon's role in Clone Wars to Ki-Adi-Mundi. Also, he at least tries to talk in the council besides Yoda and Mace. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Plo Koon is that he's like one of those guys that if you watch the Clone Wars, like, I don't know if you've seen the Clone Wars much, but if you watch the Clone Wars, he's featured really heavily in there. It's true that in the movies, Ki-Adi-Mundi is more the one, you know.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we see Plo Koon a little bit.
We see him, but he does. I mean,
He doesn't really talk that much.
The only ones we see really speak are Yoda, Mace, and Ki-Adi.
Ki-Adi, yeah.
But I mean, you got to look at it from the standpoint. It's like, what are they talking about? You know, I think like when you're talking about, okay, seeing into the future and politics and just that type of stuff, well, that's more in Ki-Adi's wheelhouse anyway.
And the other thing is with the movies, especially where they were taking place, what they were doing, you couldn't get too deep into it.
Right. See, that would be cool to show like in a early like council type situation. Not necessarily high council because of course, you know, most of them weren't even there yet, but
well, I mean, I still think that it would be kind of cool to see something with that council, but maybe a little earlier.
Yeah, pre-Phantom Menace.
Yeah, but not like High Republic.
Right, maybe 10 years or something before Phantom Menace or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe 20 at the most.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. And that's the problem with also trying to match these guys up, or people like this, is the fact that you have to, in order to really fairly do it, you really have to be up on a lot of the source material where you see them. Like in Plo Koon's case, if you don't see the Clone Wars series, you really are missing out on a lot of the character.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say you only saw the prequels.
Yeah, first of all, you probably, who's Plo Koon?
Right. Yeah, it's a good thing we got a picture of him down there. But then those guys are like, well, which one's Plo Koon? You know, I mean,
right.
And that's it. I mean, you just don't. It goes back to almost the theme of what tonight's episode is about, is side characters.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to kind of keep this theme too. Because
did you do that on purpose?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because it's like
I just thought about it now. I'm like, you know, it's kind of he's the Porkins of Jedi. He even dies like Porkins.
He does. But yeah, I just think that these two characters don't get enough shine, but they're very pivotal characters. They're very powerful characters.
Yeah, and they're extremely important. And again, if you go off on, you know, the whole thing, like if you take in not just the movies, but the books, the comics, all that stuff.
Animations,
yeah. Hey, Patrick is joining us.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah, you saying Plo Koon was that dude in the cockpit of a ship. Don't do Plo dirty. Yeah, I mean, well, that's it. And that's exactly our point. If you only see the movies, that's what you think of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's just one of those things that, unfortunately, you're missing out on a lot of the picture.
Well, like Kit Fisto is another one. Like
he's another one.
Like a lot of those guys on the Cancellation 10, Shock T, you really don't see too
Every
much.
time I think of Kid Fisto, what was that scene? Was it in Revenge of the Sith? No, it was in Attack of the Clones where he does something and he gives that smile.
Yep.
That's every time
The
I
Joker
think of him.
smile.
Yes. Every time I think of him, that's what I think of.
Yep.
I mean, I can't get that out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Kit Fisto, was he in the Clone Wars a lot?
Well, Kit, oh, you talking about the animation?
Yeah.
He wasn't in a whole lot. He was in the
I didn't think so. Again, I'm only up through like maybe the middle of season 3. I had to...
When those weird worms were taking over the troopers' brains,
yes,
that's when Fisto was around. Because he was on that medical ship, and they were trying to like make sure they got those supplies, but they had to like turn the air conditioning to Hoth to kill those stupid things.
Were those? Was that the first episode where they kind of discovered that precursor to Order 66?
No, I don't think so.
There was some. I know there was like some episode. I mean, there's obviously the season 7 one where they actually find out about it. But I mean, there was something where they said, "Hey, these Clone Wars have another chip or whatever." Patrick's saying, "What's up, y'all? Hey, it's about time that you're able to join us on one of these things, man." For those of you guys who don't know, Patrick's one of our original listeners. Like back when we were just an audio podcast, he was there. Joins all the groups, keeps up with us on Facebook. So glad to have you finally on one of our chats for our shows, for our live shows and chats. But in the Clone Wars, he's a master pilot. Yeah, I mean,
that's another thing. Like he actually has a reputation of being like one of the better pilots out in the Order, actually. And that's another trait that he has. Like he's really good at being a pilot. He's really powerful. One of the better swordsmen in the Jedi Order, and he's actually one of the more powerful ones because, like I said, he can kind of create these windstorms. He's kind of in some books and novels or whatever and comics. I think he's actually done some of this stuff where he's caused all these different types of like atmospheric feats, I guess, with the Force. And once again, like that's stuff that you just normally don't see.
Yeah, exactly. Ronaldo says all the Jedi look cool in the prequels, but they don't say anything. And I think that this part of the problem is, again, they can't go off too much on their stories because you have to remember the main idea is the Skywalkers.
Yeah, we got to get Anakin to Vader. That's the objective.
Exactly. In the prequels, it's Anakin to Vader. But then you also have to show Palpatine's rise to power. Mm-hmm. You have to show the fall of the Jedi and the arrogance of the Jedi, which of course played into that. Mm-hmm. You have to show at least the very beginning and the very end of the Clone Wars. I mean, there's a lot that they have to do in those films.
Yep.
And I think that that's part of the problem is the fact that, there's just so much to do that, and this is a good problem to have, by the way, is that you basically create all these really cool characters that everybody wants to know more about.
Well, that's what I think that's the greatest thing that I think Lucasfilm has done, bar none, is creation of the Clone Wars. I think that was like one of the single greatest things that they've done was because it was the best way to tell a bunch of different stories in the time period to which we're all familiar because of the films. But because the wars went on for so long and now you have all these different characters, like Ronaldo said, but they don't say anything. Well, in the Clone Wars, like you get them all. I mean, you get like the Attack of the Citadel had like Even Peel, which is like he's almost like a humanoid version of Yoda.
Yeah, in fact, the only one I don't think we ever got was Yaddle.
No.
And I don't even think Yaddle was even in any of the movies beyond the Phantom Menace.
Nope, she wasn't. But you got I think you saw Master Saisi 10, you saw Plo Koon, you saw Ki-Adi-Mundi, of course Mace, Yoda, Shaak Ti, and trying to think of he's like the black guy with the little horns.
Oh yeah,
I can't think of his name.
Yeah,
but
I keep forgetting about that guy.
I just saw him. It's like Krun or something. I forgot. I'll have to look it up. But yeah, that's like 7 people on the council already that we've seen in the Clone Wars.
How many people are on the council total?
I don't know.
It's like 10 or 12, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say I think it's 12.
Sounds right. Although I could be thinking about the American jury system. I mean, but it sounds right. But yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of things. And again, this goes back ad nauseum to what I've been saying, is that one of the biggest problems that also happens to be a benefit that Lucasfilm does is they create these amazing characters that are there to advance the story and to, help with the main plot. But you can't help but watch these guys and go, man, I'd love to see a movie based on this guy. And that's really the kind of thing that I would like to see, is almost like, what's that, like the Seven Samurai or something?
In regards to what? For Star Wars?
Yeah, like, I keep forgetting the name of this stupid movie. It's like, man, it happens to me like every time.
Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like...
It's something like that.
Yeah, the 7th, yeah, something like that.
But to have something in that style, though, in the Star Wars, so like you have this whole story about maybe a lot of the core Jedi that we don't usually get to see, and it was just like a really, really cool thing.
It was 12, by the way. Yes.
It is 12?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I'm Patrick Shakti, the Jedi who dies 4 times. Yeah, you know what? Wasn't she the one that died in that deleted scene?
Yeah, when she was like kneeling.
Yeah. Like, is it Grievous the one that kills her? Pretty sure it was Grievous that killed her.
Possibly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's...
But then like Ayla Secura, you had...
Oh, Ayla Secura's death was like tragic. Wasn't she the one that was
Yeah, and they turned and just gunned her down.
Yeah, and they kept shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, that was a pretty crazy, thing.
Barriss Offee and
yes,
her Padawan. What is her name? But yeah, like I said, like I say, in the Clone Wars, you get like a lot of.
Well, you do, and I think that this is one of the things, is that it actually piques your interest. You see all these, because what was the one thing that was missing from the original trilogy? Jedi. Mm-hmm. We were introduced to Vader, who's a Sith, and then you have, of course, Luke, and you have Obi-Wan and Yoda, but it's like the whole time in the original trilogy, you're thinking to yourself, man, I would love to see these guys in their prime. Mm-hmm. What was it like when there was a ton of Jedi running around? So what happens in the prequels, you get a bunch of Jedi, but unfortunately they don't have too much to do because they got to focus on the main story. Like what we just said, you got to advance. You got to make sure Anakin becomes Vader. You got to show the breakdown of Obi-Wan and Anakin's friendship. But first you have to establish it. Mm-hmm. And in that one, they only had like 2 movies to do it, because in the first one, Obi-Wan and Anakin barely even spoke until the end. And that was one of the things that they did in the trailers that I thought was funny, because it's like, Anakin Skywalker, meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we're all like, no way, dude. It's like the first time that these guys are meeting. And you find out that scene happens at like the end of the movie. It's like, we thought that we were going to get a little bit more of that, but...
Oh, yeah. Adi Gallia. She's on Eth Koth. That's who it was. The guy with the horns. Sorry.
Wow. Yeah, I keep... What scene was he in? Like, I remember him, yeah.
Well, he's actually one of the ones who got wiped out quick by Palpatine, if you want to talk about Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
He showed up, but he was also the one who got his butt kicked by Grievous in the Clone Wars, too. And then Adi Gallia, they're the ones who went to go try to rescue Eth Koth.
Okay.
And then you have, Corus, Saisi 10, Shakti, Kit Fisto.
It's funny how many of these guys popped up in movies.
Yeah.
Like when you actually look back at how many people were in the movies, you're just like, dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Well, if you think about it, that whole Geonosis scene, which is still, to me, the best scene for the whole Jedi. I mean, it's kind of like, this is what we wanted to see as a film, right? Like, give me a whole movie of like the Geonosis thing where you had the Jedi all going and they're all battling.
Yep.
But instead of like droids or whatever, it'd be cool if they were battling Sith. And I think that this is what we would like to see in future films.
Well, I think that's what we're going to get with this whole High Council thing. High Republic thing, if they actually, we're going to get it in book form, but I think if they actually move it to film or Disney Plus, I think that's where we really be able to see a lot of that stuff. And I think that will satisfy a lot of fans.
I hope so. I do. I really hope so because, and the thing is though, the only problem I have with the High Republic so far is that
it hasn't been released yet.
yeah, the fact that it's been moved to January. Isn't that what it was? Like the first book is January now?
Mm-hmm.
That's so stupid. It's like it's a book. I know, I said this before. But still, it's the same thing. I mean, it's like it's a book. Why can't you release a book? I mean, are you going to actually have the authors go and, do book signings or what? I don't know.
It's Lucasfilm, man.
Yeah, but so who are we sticking with? I'm saying Quinlan Vos.
I'm going Quinlan Vos as well.
Going Quinlan Vos. You guys, we know what the people in the chat. If you guys are watching this in the rebroadcast, leave it in the comment section below. Who do you think is the most unique? Not who would win in a battle. Who do you think is the most unique? And while you're leaving that comment, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like this video. All right. Now we're going to go to the Cantina.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. All right, so we got some really cool Star Wars news. Well, some not so good. But, we're going to kick it off, though, with something that's actually really cool for all you gamers out there.
Yeah, I would say all you gamers out there, Star Wars Squadrons trailer has been released. It's out there, so definitely check it out. It's a multiplayer space battle, and it's actually due to release October 2nd.
Is that when it is? I was wondering when it was coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And they also support crossplay in the VR. I heard the VR thing is really cool, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, with a game like this.
Yeah.
And, it's cool because a lot of they've been due for another Star Wars, ship-based game. Because when they started out with LucasArts.
That's actually what kicked it off.
That's what kicked it off. I think you had, X-Wing Fighter, then you had, TIE Fighter, and then they did some other... and they actually had a whole line of games that were in that style.
Yeah, like I said, Rogue Squadron being, the big one.
Yeah. That was for Super Nintendo or something, right? Or no?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Was it?
Yep, Super Nintendo.
Okay. I remember playing it, but
yep.
A lot of these systems blend together.
I remember I couldn't get it because I had a Sega, and I was mad because it wasn't released on Sega Genesis.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's funny about that stuff is sometimes they actually they don't always release on every system. You get those console exclusive games or whatever.
Exactly.
As a PC gamer, that used to drive me insane.
But yeah, this story takes place for Squadrons. Takes place after Return of the Jedi and the Rebels' victory at the Battle of Endor, with a perspective alternating between the fledgling New Republic's Vanguard Squadron and the Empire's much cooler sounding Titan Squadron. We'll meet a bunch of new characters with cameos from familiar faces, and it looks like Wedge Antilles and Rebels Hera Syndulla show up in the trailer. So I did catch Hera, and I did catch Wedge, so that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
But the multiplayer battles will be divided into 2 teams of 5. In the fleet battle mode, you'll have the chance to destroy opposing flagship, while in dogfights, we'll see trying to shoot down as many opponents as possible. So you can actually decide if you want to be on whichever squadron you want. So you can play as the Empire or the Rebellion. So
now, do they have one of the things I didn't catch? Is it original trilogy era?
It's post Return of the Jedi.
Okay. So
Mandalorian era. But
that's gonna be kind of weird though.
But it does say though, it's like as you move up the ranks, you'll earn weapons, hulls, engines, and shields that'll change your starfighter's performance, and cosmetic items you can use to tweak your cockpit, ship exteriors, and the appearance of your pilot.
It's funny because one of the things for all the people that are watching on Twitch, the interesting thing about the whole Twitch thing, and one of my coworkers, Connor, he's like a big Twitch guy. He's actually got a lot of pretty decent amount of followers on there, right? Gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually had a cool suggestion for us. He was like, you know what you guys ought to do, especially since you're on Twitch, because I was talking about doing some Twitch-centric shows. He's like, you guys ought to, like, you know, play some Star Wars game, just like play through a game, kind of like what a lot of the gamers are doing. But because we do a Star Wars show, it's like, do some shows where you're playing through some of the Star Wars games, and like both of us could do it and comment and all that. You know, I had to figure out, to have both of us do it, I'd have to figure out technically how to do that. But yeah, that would be a good idea. And this is the kind of thing right here. The Squadrons game.
It would be all over this.
You know, and I mean, I think a lot of people would watch that because, I mean, I'm sure our comments would be pretty hilarious throughout. Probably anger-filled rants. Like,
yeah, it's like, oh, come on.
You know, I would definitely probably be the Porkins of this whole thing, right? I mean, either that or no. You know what I'd be like? I'd be like that dude that in the Phantom Menace, he just flies out of the hangar and gets shot down. That would be me.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
those games, like whenever they had the space part of you know, some of the other games like Battlefront 2 and stuff like that.
It's too much going too fast.
Yeah. I'm like, how do people do this in real life? I mean, not that Star Wars is, but you know, when you think in terms of like Top Gun and like all these fighter pilots and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you know, you're in the middle of this Star Wars battle and stuff. You're like, how does anybody survive this?
The Force. That's pretty much what you got to have.
Yeah, but I mean, like the non-Force guys, though, you know? I mean, it's like, I mean, there's just like no way in the world. I mean, you're sitting there like trying to just dodge objects, ships. You got all these people like flying around. They're shooting at you. You have no idea half the time where this stuff's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. You know, I think that's what made the rebellion kind of, you know, I mean, they always won, but it's kind of like when you look at some of their styles, you know, it's like, okay, you know, when Vader came out, it's like, okay, you guys cover me. You guys are my flank. You know, you guys are doing this. And they kind of had...
That was a little bit more chill, though, because, you know, they were running down a trench. There wasn't a whole lot.
But I mean,
know?
like, even when you do have, like, certain missions, I guess, that they would... Like, you can definitely tell that the TIE fighters kind of had more of a... I guess they were more trained for it, and they were kind of more prepared for a lot of different things. Whereas it seems like the rebellion weren't as prepared.
Well, and not to mention just the nature of the TIE fighters themselves anyway. I mean, you kind of have to be a little bit on your game because...
Well, the thing about those things is that they're faster than the X-Wings.
Yeah, they're faster, they're more maneuverable, but
they don't have as much, they don't have any shields. Where
yeah,
X-Wings
they're very susceptible to any kind of damage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like, it's interesting because in Battlefront 2, you can fly... I haven't done it in the actual like multiplayer modes and stuff like that, and I don't even know if you can. I think you can, but in the campaign mode, you can basically there's certain times where you actually have to fly various ships, and the TIE fighters are really hard to control.
Well, that was a cool thing while watching it in Force Awakens, actually. To see actually Poe jump in a TIE fighter.
Oh, yeah, I know.
To see like a rebellion guy actually jump into a TIE fighter, and then he's like, oh, yeah, I always wanted to fly one of these. You know, just...
Well, you know, it's funny. One of our other good friends and viewers, Dave Cossey, he wrote this whole thing on our Facebook community group, Head to Head, a Star Wars community. Find it on Facebook, guys. Because we're live, I think, on Facebook. I mean, with the problems that we had with the stream today and having to restart it, I think we're still live on Facebook, but he brought up a good point, though. It's kind of like, okay, I think it was The Force Awakens, where they sort of showed the TIE fighter, like, locked in, you know, to, like, some arm or something. And it had to be released.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was kind of like, I mean, can those things just sort of, like, sit on their wing? And then if they do, like, if they're landing on a planet, it's like, if they do, then how do you get back up into it? Because the thing's like...
Yeah, a couple of feet high.
It, you know, like probably like 100. So it's kind of like, how do you even get back in the thing? Now, I theorized that I thought on some design. If you guys know in the chat, by the way, let us know. But I think there might be like a little ladder or something like that you.
That, but I think also, if I'm not mistaken, I think they actually like the cockpit area. So you have the two wings and whatnot, and then the ball in the middle. So I think that part actually comes down, like it's like a hydraulic thing where it actually kind of can come down.
Either that, or they have to have a hydraulic lift or something. It's like they'd have to have something, because you wouldn't. I'm kind of looking at the.
Well, because if you think about like Gideon, at the end of Mandalorian.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he kind of crashed, though. I mean.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Kylo had the same problem too, though. He got.
Yeah, but I mean, I was thinking in terms of like how Rey got into the ship.
She never got into it. Oh yeah, she did.
Yeah, she did. That's how she got to
the Wayfinder.
Yeah. Well, and she eventually took Luke's X-wing there, but she had to get to Ahch-To with Kylo's TIE fighter, which I thought was kind of funny because it's like he's just watching her take the ship. Like,
yep. You
got to wonder how he got off.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I still don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's just. Those are the kinds of things, and I always found playing these kind of games really difficult. But I love them, though, because like the amount of detail. And when you see the trailer for this game,
I think that's awesome.
We will put the trailer, by the way. It'll be a link in the comments in the show notes. But yeah, it's one of those things where I watch it and I'm like, I want to play the game, but I don't know. I just think I'm going to really suck at it. Another game that I haven't bought yet is Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that one either.
And that was the one that Darren, who was on earlier, was basically telling me that, that's got a really... There's some, like, cool little canon nuggets in there. I mean, it's a good game. There's a few things that stop it from being great, but it's a good game. It's just... The reason to get it, though, is some of the storyline stuff. So yeah, Ronaldo says that trailer was amazing. Yeah, that trailer was just like
sweet,
ridiculous. I mean, it made me want to just go out and buy the game now. What I'm wondering though is are they going to make it for the PS5?
Well, it's probably going to be cross-platform, especially because PS5 coming out and being brand new. Everybody has PS4 games, so and a lot of things are downloadable too. So
true, but I think that unlike the earlier ones. The PS5 will be backward compatible with PS4 games. Mm-hmm. Whereas that wasn't true when the 4 came out. It was true up until 4. When the PS4 came out, you couldn't play any PS3 or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And the cross-platform, that just means that, if you're doing the multiplayer thing, if you're on an Xbox and, one of our other friends is on a PC and I'm on a PlayStation, we can all still play multiplayer together.
Right.
Which... Actually, one of the partners in the company that I work for, we're big Call of Duty fans. So he's playing Modern Warfare. I'm playing Modern Warfare. And he was like, yeah, man, we should, he got my username or whatever. He's like, yeah, we should like try to hook up. And he's like, do you have headsets? I'm like, yep. So, we're going to try to do that. But it's kind of weird. Ronaldo says, and Fallen Order is the best Star Wars game in my opinion. Wow. That's an interesting take because a lot of people love the game, but nobody really says that Fallen Order is the best one. And that's the first time I've heard that opinion. I mean, most people...
Battlefront?
Well, that wouldn't be hard to do, though.
Or even the king of them all, Knights of the
Old Republic. But... I wouldn't actually compare those games. I mean, I would still say the Knights of the Old Republic, hands down, the original, not the sequel, hands down is like the greatest of all the Star Wars games. In fact, Knights of the Old Republic is probably one of my favorite games of all time, period. But Jedi Fallen Order is a really good game, and a lot of people do like it, and a lot of people loved it more than Battlefront. The problem with Battlefront 2... Well, Battlefront had issues with playability, and there was the graphics were incredible, but it was just a really weird, clumsy kind of game to play. Battlefront 2, they fixed a lot of that, but it was still, and I play it a lot, but it's still kind of weird. Like, I still go back to Call of Duty. If they actually would make a Star Wars game operate like Call of Duty, but it's Star Wars guys.
See, a cool one would be like almost like Rogue One, which is basically almost like Battlefront anyway.
Yeah,
well, you could do the space battle or the ground battle. So at the same, the
original Battlefront and Battlefront 2, I thought were really cool. Now, the newer Battlefront and Battlefront 2, graphics-wise, are like light years beyond the originals. But I thought the originals actually had better gameplay.
Gotcha.
But this game looks like it's really promising. It's like in the same vein as your X-Wing fighter, TIE fighter. I think that this game is going to prove to be yet another game that's going to be... I think it's going to push the Star Wars gaming thing even further.
Well, that's good.
We'll have to see. But what do we got next?
Next, we have the update on Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, this one hurts.
Yeah. So, while this news is disappointing, we are happy to announce that Star Wars Celebration will return to the Anaheim Convention Center on August 18th for your birthday through the 21st of 2022. So, because due to the, COVID-19, everybody's just kind of trying to be careful as far as, assembling in large groups. And of course, I think in this particular situation, because Celebration is so huge and you have people coming from all over, it's not just the United States, but you got people coming from, London, and you're all over Europe coming to Star Wars Celebration. With the pandemic like we've been experiencing, excuse me, I can understand why everyone is kind of hesitant on this, especially, we don't have a vaccine for COVID-19 yet. And I think this is pretty much what they're waiting for. I think they're waiting for.
Well, it would have to be because
back then,
everybody's basically making everything for 2021. Mm-hmm. I think the reason why they're pushing it to 2022 is because Celebration would be hard to do with social distancing.
Definitely.
So even if you take all these precautions and stuff like that, I think that they're really trying to wait. But, who knows? I mean, this could just be the way things are for a long time. I mean, it might not go away in another year or two, it's...
Well, they also said, and that's true, but, I think they also said tickets, transfers, and refunds. So for those fans who were planning to attend Star Wars Celebration this year, may either transfer their current ticket purchase to the new dates or receive a refund or receive credit for Star Wars Celebration merchandise.
Yeah, I wonder if that means tickets will... Because remember, we were trying to go, and then they were sold out in, days or something. Mm-hmm. It was interesting, though, is I wonder if they're going to take a lot of the panels that they were going to do and... Because, in another 2 years, the whole landscape of Star Wars could look different.
Oh, yeah, it's going to definitely look different. By then, we were going to have the High Republic books out. By then, we would have had season 2 of The Mandalorian. We've had... So there's
but I mean, even the announcements, like things that are on the horizon.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, like the movies and things.
Sure, they might have actually had a season 2 trailer for Mandalorian that would have premiered, but it'll be over by then.
Exactly.
So are they going to do a season 3? So Ronaldo's like, is there a possibility that the cancellation is also due to some kind of behind the scenes drama?
No, I don't think so. I don't not for that long.
Yeah, I don't think so either, only because there's not usually any behind the scenes drama that would affect Star Wars Celebration. That's the kind of thing that would affect movies. Now, I think there is some behind the scenes drama going on right now, actually, because you're having all this news coming out that Lucas actually hated The Last Jedi. That he's told a few behind the scenes people that have revealed that he absolutely hated it, thought it was terrible, didn't like the direction it went at all. Favreau has, I guess, voiced a lot of hatred toward it too. Mm-hmm. This is starting to get around. I think you're starting to see a little bit of a power struggle now between Favreau and Kennedy, and of course, I forgot who was heading up the whole thing now.
What do you mean? Which part?
Well, since Bob Iger's no longer, he's like creative director or something or whatever. But they'd announced who his replacement was, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But there's this whole behind the scenes stuff going on that's definitely, I think, affecting some of the production. Not all of it, but some of the production and some of the TV series, stuff like that. But yeah, Celebration is more of a time where it's kind of like if you have a couple with marital problems, but then they have a bunch of guests coming over because they have a party, they're going to put on that best face kind of thing, and pretend like everything's cool. That's sort of how Lucasfilm and Disney and all that is. Celebration comes out, everybody's going to be all smiles and this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's anything. I think it's just the virus.
Yeah, I think it's just the virus as well. I mean, but what it does, though, it does allow them to hopefully get whatever behind the scenes, stuff, whether it's the movies and TV shows, they can actually get that stuff together so it's actually, rolled out. And they actually have a legit plan, and they can actually explain that plan going forward.
Well, that's the thing that I find interesting is the fact that, you have the High Republic, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got together in a room. They came up with a story. Of course, that got pushed back. But, I mean, it's like it seems like this is the way. This is how they should have handled everything. And I'm hoping that they actually, pick up on that. Like, hey, this isn't a bad idea. Ronaldo also says, there are some rumors that the 2022 movie is canceled. That wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't.
Because what movie? They would have to be starting production on it now. Now, I think that movie would be canceled also due to the virus. But at the same time, who knows what it was even going to be? Because you had a lot of different rumors going around. Well, first of all, you had... Kevin Feige might be doing something.
Yeah, you had DB.
Well, that was actually
Benioff and Weiss. You had them, but then they got
But you still have Rian Johnson's trilogy out there, so it could have been the first one of that.
Yeah.
You have all these different things that it could be, but nobody was making any announcements. And if there was going to be a 2022 movie, you would have to hear some rumblings of some pre-production or. Something.
Yeah, at least a story or whatever.
Yeah, something. I mean, at least announce what it is. So the fact that they haven't even announced what it is or anything, it makes me wonder what they're doing. Now, I saw before, and you might even be able to punch this up, there was supposedly some news about the Obi-Wan series that Ewan McGregor updated people. I don't even
like
know.
Recently?
Right? Yeah, like really recently. Like people were starting to make videos about it already.
Well, I know some people have made some fan videos or trailers, I should say.
Well, no, but I mean, this is like Ewan McGregor actually updated people about what was going on with the series or something like that. I don't think this is like, fan fiction Obi-Wan stuff or anything like that. Because remember, that was another one that was just, what's going on with it,
buddy?
I mean, this is one of those things that you have to think about. Disney once again has to get their act together because as some of the viewers that we had pointed out earlier, it's not so much that everything is terrible about it. It's just that they're not handling a lot of things correctly.
Well, this is what I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but this came out like 2 days ago. But McGregor basically explained why he feels more excited for this upcoming series compared to the prequels. I think we're going to enjoy it much more than the prequels because the prequels were all blue screen and green screen. It was hard to imagine, but nowadays I think things have moved on so much, and I think a lot of what you're going to see is what has been seen on the set. I don't know if you've seen the behind the scenes of the Mandalorian series, but they employ all that incredible screen, and it's pretty amazing. It makes you feel like you're in the place, and it's going to feel realer for us as actors, and I think we'll be able to use that technology on our show.
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely a game changer. I mean, we were even talking about that here at work. That's like, because that's one of the things our company does is LED walls.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a use of that LED technology. You're like, it's crazy. You know, it really is cool because it's not like it's even like some higher tech thing. I mean, other than the whole parallax camera thing, but even that's like based on gaming. You know, they've been doing that in games for years.
Mm-hmm.
So all they're doing is they're taking a couple of these different technologies and they're combining it to do this. And that's a stroke of genius, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that's but that's the thing about Star Wars. Star Wars has always been pushing the envelope as far as technology. You know, they've always been innovative when it comes to from, you know, the minds of over there in ILM to using miniatures to shoot to, you know, having the cameras move with the miniatures and everything like that. It's just everything that they've done to make it a real lived in world and not make it look so Star Trek-ish almost, if you will. You know, so I think that whole vibe alone is because of Star Wars, and Star Wars has always kind of been in one of the forefront of pushing, you know, the envelope as far as like, okay, what can we do? How can we make this better?
Well, and they've been doing that even, you know, we're talking about Celebration now. They've even done that with Celebration. Look at how far Celebration has come.
Mm-hmm.
It gets more high tech. It gets more interesting. There's more for the fans to do. I mean, I wish.
Yeah, like even look at the parks, like the interactive, like Galaxy's Edge. You got all those. You know, I mean, they're just constantly, you know, pushing the envelope and raising the bar when it comes to the tech. I mean, for Christ's sakes, you know, although as much as we all loathe Jar Jar Binks, but he was the first CG. You know what I'm saying? Like that's huge. So when you really look at Star Wars as a brand and as a whole, like they've always kind of been at that point. So with The Mandalorian, you know, why would this be any different? So I can only imagine what it'll be like for Kenobi.
Yeah, and I hope that, but it is going to be interesting to see what they're going to do from a film perspective, right? So for theatrical releases, it's like, what are they going to do for those? Because we have a sense of what they're going to do on Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. Sure, they could add stuff, but we know we're going to get Obi-Wan. We know we're going to get another season, another two seasons of Mandalorian. Yep. We know we got the Cassian Andor series. There's rumblings of that female-centric
the all-female
show could be an Ahsoka thing, and maybe Rex will be in that. And, you know, there's a bunch of rumors going around, but the bottom line is we have an idea of what's going to happen, you know, moving forward with Disney Plus. What we don't know is what's going to happen
with the films.
For the whole films, because they had this whole aggressive schedule. Yeah, we got 2022 and 24 and 26 or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, what though? You know, you're not telling us anything. Now, maybe that's what they were going to do at this year's celebration.
And I figured that's what's going to happen. What was going to happen, but because not only the celebration pushed back, but the films are pushed back, so now you have to move everything else.
Yeah, but do you think though that means? So in other words, celebration would have been what? When was it actually? Was it in July?
This is like well,
or was it August?
I thought it was August.
Well, whichever month, we knew it was going to be the summer, right? So, do you think that they're going to go ahead and actually tell us some of the things that they were going to tell us, or do you think they're really going to wait till the 2022? You know, because I mean,
they may make us wait just simply because if they feel like they have a good product to go with, they might make us wait at least one more year. So they might release it in they might drop some information in 2021 as far as, you know, because I think it just depends on like their shooting schedule. You know, like I think if they got some stuff done already, then maybe. If not, if they hadn't started on anything, then you know.
And that's my point. It's like the whole future of Star Wars. I mean, again, on Disney Plus is pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know that Star Wars is the movies.
But thank God for Disney Plus, though, because that's what's keeping them alive right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it, but if they didn't have Disney, well, they'd really be in trouble, especially this virus thing.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you didn't have Disney Plus and you already had all this kind of stuff already pretty much in the can, now what happens if now you have the coronavirus that hits. Well, this is carrying you at least through these dark times until, we can get back to regular life, whatever that is, but.
Yeah, if we ever. Well, and it's going to be interesting. I really just wish that they would say, here's some of the things that we're planning on doing. We don't know if it's going to happen or not, but give us some sort of a direction. Give us something to look forward to. I mean, you could make the argument, and this isn't lost on me, you could make the argument that, hey, genius, that's what we did with all the Disney Plus announcements. That's what we did with the High Republic announcements. The only thing we're really missing is the films. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of fans would counteract that by saying, yeah, that's true, but guess what? Star Wars is the films. All this other stuff, whether you really want to, you could spin it any way you want, but the other stuff is really periphery material.
Well, yeah.
I actually really, there have been a lot of people that have been saying, look, the future of Star Wars probably is Disney Plus. I'd be fine with that. But I don't know. Ronaldo says, I think High Republic will be the movies. It's like a reboot within the continuity. That's what we're hoping. But actually, the announcement so far is that it's basically going to be a series of books because it was created by a bunch of authors, a couple of whom are some of our favorites, most notably Claudia Gray. They did say comics too, right? Thought there was going to be like a cross, but it's definitely starting out with the films, though. So, the
books.
The books. So now, mind trick. So, yeah, it's basically starting out with the books, and it's going to be this whole series. It's like 4 of them so far, I think.
Yeah. But I think, like I said, I'm anxious for High Republic because there's so much you can tell.
Well, it's a brand new era for one thing.
That being numero uno. But then, right after that, I just think that you have a prime space to really show the Jedi, and you can't even say the Sith at that time, but this the Jedi almost kind of at their zenith, and I think that would be a really cool thing. And I think we can really delve into the lore, the religion, the concepts, the ideologies, like all the different things that make. So now when you start looking at, years down the line, when you're looking at the Phantom Menace, or, you fast forward to A New Hope, you're like, okay, this is where it started and this is where we ended up. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. But and unfortunately, the biggest hub that they use to announce all this stuff is not moved 1 year, but 2 years away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I know.
Can't we just stream it?
Right. Can we do like a Zoom meeting?
That's basically like what, and honestly, so I go to Sweetwater's Gear Fest every year. Mm-hmm. And normally, of course, that's everybody goes to the Sweetwater. It's like a big music thing. And they got tents outside with all this gear. They got a bunch of people, artists, producers, all kinds of people coming in and doing basically workshops or clinics. They're doing an all-online event this year. It's actually next weekend. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to be working part of Friday, and then, of course, we're going to be doing our stream. But Saturday, it's going to be the same thing. My point, though, is that it's actually looking like it might be better than the real event. Other than the fact that at the real event, you can get your hands on the gear and do all this stuff. But, as far as the panels and stuff.
Well, yeah, I think that would be cool. Like, the only thing is, of course, you can still take questions, like, no different than you just got to do it via chats now.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So just like, okay, we're going to go to some chats and let's see, or you got some key people that you might have to answer,
Yeah, you're going to lose some of the exhibits. You're going to lose, there is a certain experience and celebration that you will lose, but. And they could certainly save that for 2022, but why not just do an all-online event?
Yeah.
And then that way, at least you could get some of it out there.
I agree.
But I don't know. What do you guys think? We know what you guys are thinking right now live in the chat, but if you guys are watching the rebroadcast of this, leave your comments in the comment section below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button if you like what you see so far. All right. What do we got next on our Cantina?
Next we have excuse me.
You all right?
I'm all right. Next we have the story of Darth Plagueis is no longer canon.
Yeah, this is kind of weird. I ran across this article that was talking about some interview or something that somebody did. And it was because of the way certain events were portrayed, it actually nukes out Darth Plagueis' storyline. But here's the thing that I always thought was really strange is the fact that I thought that they sort of confirmed that his storyline was canon.
Well, because on one hand, like the rule was if it's in the movies, it's canon. So the mere fact that it was mentioned in Revenge of the Sith,
but I mean, the thing is that
it made it canon.
But the way that this article was making it sound, it was basically saying that there was like a slightly different spin on that, and it was kind of different the way that they portrayed it. I personally think that it should remain canon. I mean, if there's actually any kind of a question, the two things I think that they should not touch are the Darth Bane story and the Darth Plagueis story. Because the idea is they were saying that Palpatine killed Plagueis sometime after Phantom Menace. Like when he was still Senator rising up, it wasn't until he became Chancellor that he actually killed him. See, that's where some of this stuff is going on, and that it was based on something that was in another book, which of course I didn't read, but I found it interesting. That's why I sent the article to you, because I'm like, man, you should check this out. Because it's one of those things that I think that the Plagueis thing is a cornerstone of the modern Star Wars canon. Even though he was brought up in Revenge of the Sith for the first time, there have been some novels and everything that have talked about it.
Well, let's see. So James Luceno presented Palpatine as still being apprenticed during the events of the Episode 1 Phantom Menace. Maul was technically a Sith assassin, recruited to the cause with Plagueis' blessing, and Palpatine only killed his master after ascending to becoming Chancellor. In contrast, Johnson portrayed Darth Sidious as the definitive Dark Lord of the Sith through the whole story. There is no way to reconcile these two books. Darth Plagueis should therefore be considered non-canon. So this is predicated upon E.K. Johnson's new canon novel, Queen's Peril.
Yeah, wasn't that the Amidala book?
I believe so. But see, my thing is...
And that book's not that new.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, honestly, like, if you're going to do anything, because, okay, you can't because if you're going to do that, you're now taking away Darth status from Maul then. Because now he's like almost like a side Ventress. He was never a true apprentice.
Well, and the thing is that that's negated anyway in the Phantom Menace, because he's like, my new apprentice, Darth Maul.
Right.
It's like, okay, my new apprentice, Darth Maul.
Right.
It's like...
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
And once again, this comes from the mind of George Lucas himself, like the creator. So it's like, how do you tell the creator he's wrong?
Right.
First and foremost.
Well, and I mean, even if you change some stuff, because, obviously...
But see, that's what I'm saying. You can't change the creator, though. You can change...
Yeah, like, basically, like, your follow-up stuff or whatever. But I mean, and that's
expanding that lore, maybe, but you can't change the origin of it.
But that's my point. My point is, like, why would they even... it's like, this is, again...
Who's running the ship over?
Well, first of all, I will say this. Okay, I probably would have to read the book myself. Are you done yet with Jedi Lost, by the way?
No, but I am done with my grade, so yes, I can finish it now. But here's the thing, though.
Yeah, no, nice.
Here's the thing, though. So...
He's trying to deflect, just so y'all know.
Lightsaber skills, man. So, Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Maul was technically a Sith assassin. So I guess maybe So I guess if you look at it from this perspective, from a certain point of view.
Oh, man.
So when we first see...
Did that already. That was Porkins.
I know. So when we first see Maul, you know, he's talking to Palpatine on that balcony, and they both have their hoods on and, you know, having that conversation. It's like, all right, at last we'll reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At that point, he was a Sith assassin. So at some point during that whole thing...
Yeah, but it can't be, though, because...
Palpatine killed Plagueis and ascended to the rank of Master, which now allows him to give Maul...
Yeah, but are you basing this on what was said in the article? Because if you are, he didn't rise to Chancellor yet, though. At that point that you're talking about. He does by the end of the movie, yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean, it would...
That's valid.
You know, it would negate it.
That's true.
So, Ronaldo says maybe his backstory will be shown in High Republic in a different way. Maybe. Well, the problem is, though... The
Sith have been extinct by then.
Yeah, because High Republic is not the Old Republic. I think we should probably make that clear, because I remember it confused me pretty good for a while. High Republic takes place 200 years before the Phantom Menace. The Old Republic takes place like 10,000 years or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Sith are fully extinct by the time of the High Republic, which is what makes it interesting, because one of the things they were talking about was who are the villains going to be? Because, you know, the Sith are usually the go-to villains for the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they have to come up with some new, and I think we even talked about that in one of the shows. Yeah, they had said
came
something.
up like that's what they're dealing with, like the pirates and all the different kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, almost like Hondo and, you know.
Well, that would be kind of cool, though.
You know, so you kind of got that kind of swashbuckling, that kind of style Star Wars movie, I'm guessing.
Well, and again, you know, and this is going to start out in the books. Now, if you ask me, yeah, I think they're going to end up making movies about it, because I don't think that they would actually spend their time creating this whole new era if they weren't going to do something with it in, at the very least, Disney Plus.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't create a landscape like this and just...
Yeah, like it's just going to be
especially
a book.
Because it's like, especially since the Skywalker saga is done, what else are you going to do? I mean, as far as telling the story of Jedi, because if you're not going to follow it with Rey and Finn, which would be the natural progression, then, I mean, it will be dead at that point. So you will have to go back either to the beginnings. That would make the most sense.
Well, it's one of those things that it would be nice if somebody at Lucasfilm or Disney or whatever would say, hey, guys, here's what's going on. You know, we just don't get that from them. And that's why you can have an article like this, because without actually reading the book myself, and it was on my list of books to read, now it's going to go up a lot higher, because if they're talking about that there's something in this book that could possibly negate the entire Darth Plagueis thing.
Yeah. I mean, they said Darth Plagueis' backstory may be a mystery once again, but there's another sense in which Lucasfilm has demystified the Sith Lord. Tie-ins surrounding the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker have confirmed the secret he discovered. He apparently learned the art of essence transfer, surviving death by moving his spirit from one body to another. This was how Palpatine survived his death and returned to the Jedi, practicing the skill his master had learned all those years ago. This has
you got it right.
I know, right? This has another unexpected side effect, though. Lucino's Darth Plagueis novel didn't just tell the story of Plagueis, it also revealed Palpatine's backstory. Now all that can be dismissed as non-canon as well, meaning that the greatest Sith Lord of all, the one so powerful he brought the entire Force out of balance, requiring the chosen one to restore it, is shrouded in secrecy once more. It will be fascinating to see whether Star Wars eventually chooses to tell Palpatine's new canon story.
Yeah, but I just don't know if this is really all accurate or not. Because, and if it is, how stupid could you possibly be? You know, it's one of those things that it's like, okay, Disney's already making somewhat of a mess of the movies. Mm-hmm. You know, again, I pretty much like, to varying degrees, all the sequel trilogy movies.
Right.
I'm one of those guys. But I also recognize the fact that they've had a bit of poor execution.
True.
And I mean, they did some really good things. Mandalorian, Rogue One.
Clone Wars.
Well, Clone Wars is Lucas, though.
Yeah.
True, they let Filoni come back and do a season 7, but, that's really...
Yeah.
That's autopilot. But in all the stuff that they did sort of right, they did a bunch of things that were definitely wrong. And I think that that's the problem right now that they're having, is the fact that they're actually going to mess with Plagueis and Palpatine's backstory that's been somewhat established.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's been established by the creator. Like, leave it alone. Like, George Lucas himself wrote these movies. He wrote the books. He wrote the characters. Like, he wrote it. Just leave it alone. For Christ's sakes.
I mean, it's kind of like if you guys want to tell stories around it or maybe things that happened after it or whatever, fine. But it's like, don't mess with the backstories of these guys. In fact, okay, I'm gonna backpedal a little bit. If you want to mess with the backstories of it, okay, I'm open-minded enough that I could say, you know what, fine. But make a movie or series or something that fills in the blanks then. In other words, don't just negate Plagueis and Palpatine's entire backstory and then just kind of leave it at that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if you're going to do that and say, you know what, it's not exactly what you thought, great. Let's have an animated or series on Disney Plus about Palpatine or Plagueis. Or a movie.
Yeah, but then I think that's, once again, though, you're going to confuse a lot of people because now it's like, okay, well, what? Well,
not necessarily, because if you think about it, not a whole lot of people really know those backstory. I mean, you really have to go into some of the canon
the Star Wars fans, yeah, but that's sometimes I'm just like the casual fans. No, they wouldn't know and they wouldn't care, honestly. But the hardcores like ourselves, like, because now it's like, okay, we've already kind of understood like the whole succession of like, okay, Bane, Plagueis, Revan, because it's like, okay, well, how far does this go back now,
Well, sure, because look, there's a lot of this stuff that you get on StarWars.com and their data banks or whatever they call
Wikipedia
it. It's like,
and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's
like,
pretty, so now you got to change all this.
Yeah, you're going to change all that too.
What about all the comics that came out? What about all the stuff that's already been printed that's already talked about Plagueis?
Well, that's
what I'm saying. Like, you got to go.
You can, not necessarily, because remember, this is the same company that was like, yeah, all those hundreds of expanded universe books, yeah, they don't count anymore.
Well, yeah, true.
So, but again, one of the announcements they did make, though, was like, okay, we did away with that because we're going to now tell a new canon that is basically all tied together. And they, what they actually said was really cool, I thought, and a great idea. But now they seem to be going back on that.
It just seems like they're just trying to retrofit everything to make Rise of Skywalker make sense. That's what basically, it seems like a big cover up. It's just like, okay, well, you know what? We can't, Rise of Skywalker already came out.
See, Ronaldo, there's your behind the scenes drama right there.
So it's like, all right, well, cool. Let's just scrub all the other stuff from before and then change it to fit. So that way, now when you watch it, it makes sense. It's like, no.
It's one of those things that I just don't know at this point. It's like when you're really starting to go into like Plagueis and Palpatine, it's like, why? That's what I don't understand. Why would you change it? The only way that I could think of is if they have something on the horizon and they needed to negate it. Or, is it possible?
But it already makes sense, though.
Well, did E.J. Johnson, he's the one that wrote Queen's
Peril.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole Plagueis thing makes sense. It makes sense. It's like, okay, the Sith have always been in some form of alchemy. Like that's just kind of that's in their wheelhouse, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're talking, because look at like even in the Clone Wars, you got like, all right, I just found it. This is one of the things I just try to dismiss, but when we looked at the Clone Wars, do you remember the episodes when they were on Dathomir, the Dathomir witches, and they came up with Savage Opress and everything like that, right?
Yep.
Okay. When they were doing their whole, like when Asajj Ventress went over there to try to find a champion or whatnot, and they had that whole little duel, and there was only one left. None of those guys had the Force. So how did all of a sudden Savage Opress start using the Force all of a sudden?
Well, because he was trained by Dooku, remember?
But he never had the Force.
Well, but the thing is that, it depends on how you look at things. Because remember, the Force is surrounds us, it binds us in all living things. It's just that if you are taught to tap into it, then, you can... It's not like you have... And again, I get the whole midi-chlorian count and all this other stuff, but you never know. I mean, he could have had a higher midi-chlorian, if you want to go there, he could have had a higher midi-chlorian count. It's sort of like a lot of people...
No, honestly, it was the whole Mother Teresa, for whatever her name was, Tundle, whatever her name was, Panda Bear Palomale, I don't know, but her, like, she used her little witch voodoo or whatever it was, and, made him, because he wasn't that big before, so now he's huge.
She made him like really.
She gave him powerful and all this stuff. So like,
yeah, but
to me,
Dooku
I don't even think he really had. I think she did something to maybe amplify. If you're going to use that whole, everyone has the Force within them. It's just that some people have a higher ability or higher concentration of it, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, he was basically learning at the hands of Dooku. Dooku taught him a few things in order to, do what he needed him to do, and it just so happened that was the one thing in the Clone Wars that I thought was a little bit of a misstep. Not so much the whole fact that he developed the Force or all that. I thought they moved through that storyline a little too quick. It was like he was just chosen to be, Asajj's
replacement.
Yeah. But I mean, she recruited him, though, to betray Dooku.
Right.
And then it was like one episode later, it's like Asajj, haha, he was really my agent all the time or whatever. I thought that was something they should have, that whole droid thing they dragged on for like 4 episodes in season 5 where they got lost. And
well, even that, to your point, like looking at that whole situation, okay, so you want this guy who you just got him like 2 days ago. Now you're about to send him to storm this place. He beats a Jedi and his Padawan.
Well, that's it.
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
How?
That's the only thing that I fault him. Not necessarily for the fact that, he had these things. It's the fact that they zipped through that whole thing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was wrapped up in like 2 or 3 episodes at the most. And it's like, well, that shouldn't be.
Yeah, and then of course, like then at one point, like he's going head up with Dooku, who was not only just like a Jedi Master at one point, but he actually was like a powerful Jedi Master.
Yeah, I mean,
then he's a powerful Sith Lord. He's going against Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker. Once again, 2 very powerful, like the top of the food chain Jedi Knights, and he's holding his own with them. Like, really?
Right, and he just learned this stuff
like 2 days ago.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really say the whole Luke Skywalker, because you could make that argument with Luke Skywalker. Look, you learned the Force like 10 minutes ago, and you're going up against Vader, but at least he had some lineage. And
he had some lineage. He was already predisposed to be powerful anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part is, you do have the will of the Force. So I was like, all right. But this guy, like, he was manufactured.
Yeah.
And that's my whole point. Like, he was a manufactured Sith Lord, I guess, if you want to call him that. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Sometimes they do these little misstep things. Just like with this book, Queen's Peril. It's like, first of all, is this how the person who wrote this article is interpreting that?
Yeah.
And then secondly, even if they ended up doing that, does Disney have a plan? And they're like, okay, screw with the backstory and, freak people out. And then we're going to come in and say, hey, we got something new. And it's like, why would you do that? These are the kinds of things that I just don't understand, or do they even not? Sometimes I wonder, and this is when people are criticizing Kathleen Kennedy, I understand why.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, do you follow Star Wars at all? Like, do you understand? That's why, honestly, I just want to smack the crap out of her every time I watch the gallery. Yeah. I just want to take my foot and smash her. I mean, I have very violent feelings actually when I watch, and I don't, again, one of the best producers that ever walked the face of the earth as far as, being talented. As a producer, she's like untouchable. But as a studio head, she's awful. Mm-hmm. And maybe as a studio head, she'd be okay, but not as a Lucasfilm studio head.
Yeah, like put her over there with like...
And it just, everything sounds so pretentious and contrived with her. It's like, I get the vibe that she's not really a fan of the series. Yeah. She's like a fan of the money that the series brings in.
It's more so like, this is just a resume builder. Like, this is the thing that just puts me on this pedestal that I can just be the queen of, in a sense, without even really knowing how to govern it.
I sort of wonder.
It's kind of a certain principle we used to, know.
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, there you go. Wise decision. But it makes me wonder, because Lucas is the one that handpicked her to succeed him. I wonder if he has second thoughts about that now.
He probably does.
Like if we had him on the show. And another thing.
I really don't want to get into that. But
yeah, it starts out that way, but then as the conversation loosens up,
a man named Lucas.
It just becomes like this whole venting session. Like Lucas
like
is
therapy.
Just, yeah, exactly. He's like crying at the end, and
why wouldn't they listen to me?
I mean, he's like going, like having kind of a breakdown, like shaking.
He's probably going to sound like Obi-Wan. Like, you were the chosen one. You were supposed to make it better, not make it worse.
It's like you had the high ground, but you chose. It's interesting too, because this blew me away was that, I mean, you knew that he had the treatments for 7, 8, and 9, but he was starting to do pre-production before he sold it. It's like, why would you? You would think that what he would have done was sold it after he made 7. That would have made sense to me.
Why?
Because then he could have guaranteed that he at least established the new sequel trilogy. I mean, granted, it's like if you're going to do that, you might as well do all of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, you might as well do all of them, because then you're going to run into the same problem you had with JJ.
Well, I think
JJ did the same thing, and then you pass it off to Ryan. Well,
I think it was a betrayal in a way, though, too, because remember, that was one of the big things that came out in Bob Iger's book, was the fact that Lucas was under the understanding they had a little bit of a handshake deal going. Like the oral contract kind of thing. It was like Lucas understood that they were going to go ahead with his ideas for 7, 8, and 9. He was very disappointed and hurt, and he felt betrayed when he found out what they actually were doing. Like, thanks, but no thanks. And you can understand that.
Yeah.
And this kind of nonsense, here with this whole, now Plagueis' thing is non-canon. It's like, not that it was ever firmly canon in the first place, though. Because, I mean, it's kind of like you said. You referenced the whole thing that we learned in Revenge of the Sith. But that was about the only thing that was canon. We don't really know a whole lot about him or their training or their relationship. That was all filled in on a bunch of expanded universe stuff. And to a certain degree, some new canon comics and stuff like that. But I mean, for the most part, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's kind of wide open. So I get it. But it's like, okay, if you're going to do something, you have to understand that you have dedicated and hardcore Star Wars fans. Like us, obviously there are people that are way more hardcore than us.
Yeah, but
mostly time. It's not so much that we have... that they have more of a love of Star Wars than we do. It's really that some people just have more time to explore every little nook and cranny of it than we do.
Right.
But again, there's people like us. There's the super hardcore guys.
And Christian Harloff.
I mean, we basically we love this stuff, and it's like every time we get invested in something, it's like you change it on us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done with my rant.
I know.
I think I need to calm down.
Yes.
There is only one way that I can calm down. I have to clear my mind. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to one of my favorite segments of all time. It's a little segment we call Clear Your Mind. Listen to that. Just cleansing for the soul. Breathing. But this is where we answer questions that you guys submit. Now, of course, you guys are free to hit the chat or if you guys are watching the rebroadcast, go ahead and leave stuff in the comment section. We're always monitoring that. But we do have people that send us in questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually take 2 of them. Always 2 there are.
Yes.
So who's our first one?
First one comes from, I think her name is Sadia T. And her question is, do you think that Leia could have been as powerful as Luke?
Yeah, in fact, Yoda seemed to think she could have been more powerful than Luke.
Mm.
And this is one of those things where, oh man, I wish Carrie Fisher hadn't died for a myriad of reasons, but
right.
a little further down the list than, just humanity.
Right.
We have the fact that they had big plans for her for episode 9 that unfortunately we'll never see realized. But one of them was that Leia was really going to come into her own as a Jedi. She was going to train Rey, and she was going to take on this mantle. And, and then, of course, the Duel of the Fates movie that Colin Trevorrow was going to make, wasn't she going to, duel, whatever? I forgot who the villain was in that thing.
Yeah.
But I know she was going to, she was going to have a lightsaber battle. I remember that.
Well, that's always cool to see that in Rise of Skywalker, too.
Yeah, I mean, at least we got a little bit of that, right? So we got her training, and they did the whole, de-aging and, put her face basically on somebody else, and that would have been really cool.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that conversation that they had in Return of the Jedi where Luke was talking to her on that bridge, and she was like, well, you have a power, that I can never have, that I can never understand. He's like, no, you have that power too. And do you think that Luke knew then that she could be stronger than him?
Yeah, it seemed that way.
Do you think he was kind of?
It just seemed that way. His whole demeanor was it's almost like, listen, there's a lot of things that I need to tell you that you're going to have a really hard time processing. So I have to do this in stages and in steps and
our dad.
Yeah, you know that guy that you've been hating your entire life,
blew up your home planet.
He's kind of your real dad, And oh, by the way, you had this power, and oh yeah, you're supposed to be the one that. I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of things that you're going to need to process this. Your whole life was basically a lie, It's so Ronaldo says if Rey finished Leia's Jedi journey, those that mean Leia was going to defeat Palpatine. Well, I don't know because Palpatine wasn't really in the original version of Episode 9. And I think that all came about after Carrie Fisher's death. They knew that they had to revamp the story a little bit. And I think that they thought that maybe bringing Palpatine in
would be a service of distraction.
Yeah, it would almost be okay, well, we can't do what we really wanted to do. So, I don't necessarily think that Palpatine was originally, I know he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't in Colin Trevorrow's thing. So I don't necessarily know that if it was okay, Leia couldn't do it, so we're going to have Rey do it kind of a thing. I think it was really more of, we can't do what we were originally going to do with the Leia character, so we're going to then switch things up a little bit and do that. But I mean, certainly, yeah, I think that that Leia could have easily been as powerful, if not more so. Simply because a lot of the things that they hinted at. Now, why, I don't know. That's the one thing not really sure.
Well, I think, because Leia.
Now you're doing it.
I know, right? I think just because Leia, just depending on how she grew up, if you look at things with Luke, he kind of had to learn everything trial by error almost.
Well, she is also a lot less reckless.
That's what I'm saying. She's a lot less reckless. She's more level-headed. She can be fiery, but still level-headed. And I think
she's more Jedi-like, actually.
Yeah. I mean, she's always about hope and trying to, bring everybody in together. And she's selfless. She's
great
about
leader.
Yeah. And so I think just her natural abilities, as well as things that she's acquired through the years, being being part of the Senate and just learning everything like that, I think she has that gravitas. And I think that's why she just didn't realize her power. So I think that once she could tap into that and do things with a clear head than Luke.
Well, she clearly had the cooler lightsaber.
I don't know. I think I like.
You really don't think that their lightsaber was cooler? I thought it was cooler. It had that whole ornate, kind of elegant.
Nah, I still like Luke's, the green one. Yeah.
Really? Why don't you pop up a picture of both of them and see if you really, really feel that way? Because, I mean, now, of course, my favorite one currently is probably Rey's lightsaber. Especially, like, just the sound it made when she ignited and the shot that they had at the end of that movie. I just thought that was so cool. I mean, it was just like, oh, man. I mean, I remember saying this last week or the week before that I wish he had actually fought with that thing because that would have been cool. It's like, forget the Luke and Leia one. You should have busted that thing out against Palpatine. But that's the thing that I think that if you look at the way that Luke was and then the way that Leia is, Leia had more of a calm demeanor. She had more control. Like, I think the Force could have actually done more with her.
Yeah.
Than it could have or did do with Luke, even though Luke ended up being, granted he wasn't, as Darkseid had pointed out earlier in our show, Luke being the all-powerful godlike grandmaster that he was in the old expanded universe, he was still, without question, a grandmaster and more powerful than probably any of the other Jedi, even as depicted in the sequel trilogy. But again, I think that even when you factor that in, Leia still probably would have eclipsed Luke in power. Now, it would have been interesting to see how that would have worked, though, because I know Luke was training her. Mm-hmm. And I think that the way that it would have shaken down, it's not like you can really compare the two. I think it would have been more like they had different strengths and slightly different attributes.
Yeah. I mean, I think because with them being twins, too, I think that's going to happen.
I think it would actually, what's really odd? You know what I think the dynamic would have been like if you look at the overall thing? Is that Luke would have been kind of like Anakin and she would have been like Obi-Wan. Because the thing about Obi-Wan that's really interesting, because he's really a super powerful Jedi, actually.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes him so powerful is he's extremely well-balanced. He's well-versed in
a lot of diplomacy.
But I mean, there was Connor and I were just having this conversation the other day. Form 2, I think, is the one.
So I forgot the name of it.
I never remember the names of those stupid things. But like Form 4 or 5 or something was like
Anakin was 5. Anakin was 5. He was 2.
And I think because Obi-Wan's was more defensive.
Yeah.
But it was very deadly because you basically ended up making mistakes and then that's when it gets you or something like that. It's, I've always been so terrible at that. And yeah, as far as the names, I can never remember the names of those stupid things. But I always thought it was cool, though. They did that whole, different lightsaber forms and they really defined them well. And how many different forms were there?
Yes, it's Sorensu. That's his.
Because Mace's was like, he's the only one that used like Form 6 or something.
He used Vapid or something. Vapid or Vapid. I forgot how you pronounce it.
No, you're doing better than I am. At least you kind of remember these things.
Well, I remember Mace's just because it's Mace.
Yeah, well.
But, no, so Obi-Wan originally specialized in Form 4, which was Qui-Gon Jinn. But then, after witnessing his master's death,
he's kind of like, you know what? Forget 4. 4 obviously doesn't work very well.
Yeah, so
4 was cool until we started facing off these other guys with lightsabers, and it's not so great.
Yeah, so there's 7 forms.
Okay, yeah, I thought there was 7 of them.
So there's Shishu, Shicho.
Bless you.
Makashi, Sorensu, which is 3, Ataru, which is 4, Shin and Jimso, which is 5, which is Anakin's.
Sound like dishes like that I'd order. I'll take a number 6 with the.
And then you had Neiman, and then Vapod.
That's 7?
Mm-hmm.
That's Mace's, right?
Yep.
Because as far as I know, he's the only one that used that one.
Yeah. Well, no. Yoda knew it too.
Well,
Yoda was master of all of them. Yeah, he knew all of them.
Yeah, he knew all of them, was master of all of them. What about Palpatine?
I don't know if they do the
You're
same.
like, dude, you got Google? Look it up. What are you asking me for?
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
Like 4?
Actually, you know who? So when we were talking about lightsabers, who had the coolest one was Palpatine to me, honestly.
Oh yeah,
Palpatine's like the sweetest one.
If we, I mean, yeah, exactly. If you're talking about like of everybody, then yeah.
Oh no, it's a tie between Palpatine and Mace, honestly, for me.
I don't know. Mace's was kind of normal though. I mean, now if you're talking about colors,
I'm just talking about like the look, because he had the gold on the actual hilt too.
Well, that's true. And I always liked Dooku's curved hilt. I always thought that was kind of cool.
That was cool though.
I mean, that was a different concept. You know, you don't usually see stuff like that. And that's one of the things that I always thought was cool, was when you get these guys that would have, you know, different lightsaber hilts and stuff like that for their fighting thing. Like I love Kylo's too. I like the fact that the blade is almost like this uncontrollable energy. It's a little bit flawed. Goes with his personality.
Mm-hmm. Especially that cracked crystal. It's like, yeah, it definitely shows something about his psyche.
Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, it's one of those things that, again, they put some thought into that stuff, and that's the kind of thing that I appreciate.
So Palpatine primarily used the Vapod form, although he hated using his lightsaber.
Yeah, well,
he actually preferred using the dark side of the Force more than actually using his lightsaber.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the fanboy things that Episode 3 checked off as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because ever since you saw Palpatine, you're like, man, what would it be like if he fought with a lightsaber? It would be weird, and it was. It was really odd seeing him fighting with a lightsaber, because he's the Force lightning guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like they actually did point out some, I don't remember if it was a comic or what it was, but somebody pointed out that Vader actually did use Force lightning at one point.
Yeah, he did.
Now
he found a way. It was like a synthetic version, though.
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's what it was. Because up until then, it was kind of like, no, he couldn't do it. It would short out his suit or whatever. So,
yeah, he created like a synthetic version of it.
Jeez, even his Force lightning was synthetic.
Well, you know,
I mean, it's
the guy's more machine
really?
than man.
I guess.
Twisted and evil.
All right, so who's the next question from?
All right. The next question comes from Reem Willis. And the question is, why do you think that Ahsoka has gained so much popularity that she's getting her own series?
That's a good question, because being a former Ahsoka hater myself.
Hater.
I think a lot of it just has to do with her characterization and her growth throughout the series.
I agree.
You know, I think that she started out in this one area that was kind of annoying, but as she grew, because you got to think about it, that as you're watching the Clone Wars, she's just like kind of a secondary character. It's like, okay, I really like the show. I'm going to put up with it. Okay, I got to deal with this annoying character. It's not that bad, so I'll just, if I have to deal with her to get to the Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and all that stuff, I will. So what ends up happening is you watch it for those reasons, but then as you see her character starting to grow, you're kind of like, wow, I'm kind of into the storyline. And then eventually, again, it's all Filoni and Lucas's writing. I think that's what it is. It's the fact that Ahsoka, unlike any other Star Wars character that I can think of, you actually see her growing. Because with Anakin, it's sort of like it's big jumps, 10-year jumps, you know, and you just see like little windows of his growth. But with Ahsoka, you literally see her from the time she's like a younger teenager all the way up into like her 20s, maybe 30s. I'm not sure. Because, you know, you got to factor in Rebels. Rebels is a little while. It's like there's 30 years or something, or no, 19 years between episode 3 and episode 4. Rebels is taking place pretty close to where the Rogue One Episode 4 thing is. So you got to figure she was like, 14, 15 at the beginning of Clone Wars. And there's a decent amount. Figure she's like maybe 19 by the time it ends. She's, like pretty much in her early 30s.
Like 28 to 30s.
Well, she was 19 at the end of Episode 3, and it's 19 years between that and 4. And Rebels takes place maybe a couple of years. She's like in her mid-30s at that point. And even if you want to allow for a little bit of playing with the age maybe during the Clone Wars, you got to figure she's at least in her early 30s by Rebels.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Ahsoka, and for everything that you said, like, I completely agree with you 100%. I think the other thing about Ahsoka, though, is the wealth. Before I even get to that, she is very powerful. Like, just out the gate, like from the time she was a child when Plo Koon found her.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Like
I actually forgot
she actually
about
was
that.
a pretty powerful student.
She was keeping up with Anakin, like right from the beginning, just running up, like when they were falling down or they were attacking, like going up that wall and stuff, and they were racing. Oh, race to the top, or
yep.
And she's actually like doing all these crazy feats. I was like, wow, I didn't remember her being this powerful.
That when Plo Koon found her, he's like, she has a pretty high, force sensitivity. But then when you take into account that, plus the fact of like, look who she's around all the time. And I think that's when you look at like, okay, you have the chosen one who's like Anakin Skywalker. You have one of the most like balanced and, well reserved Jedi and Obi-Wan Kenobi. She has access to Yoda all the time. She's always running up to Yoda and asking him, meditating with him and asking him questions. She's gone on missions with Plo Koon, who's on the council. She's gone on missions with Barriss Offee and her Padawan. So she's learning from these super high power and high level Jedi all the time. So just that, having that experience, and then she's been charged with leading some big missions on her own. So I think that when you look at her experience level and then just the type of company that she's been in the midst of, I think that's what makes her so popular, because you really don't see any other Padawan with that type of access. You don't see any other type of Padawan who's going up to Master Yoda or Plo Koon. Like, even Barriss Offee's, Padawan is very demure. Like, okay, I'm sorry, she's got her head down the whole time. Ahsoka's like, well, no, why should we do this? And she's taking on a lot of stuff from Anakin too, to which her future self had to warn her, like, you might want to chill out, because he's not going to end up, this is not going to go how you expect, so to speak. So just be careful. And yeah, I think that's kind of why she's kind of risen to power as a popular character, just because, and it's on top of that, she's, a female too. You really don't see that too much until you get to Rey.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and those are all good points too, because she's one of the people that I think that, again, not only do you just see the growth of her as a character, you also see her growth in power, but even though she already started out pretty powerful. So it's like she's growing in power, but more understanding and more control and more how to use all this stuff. And when it's appropriate to do something and when it isn't.
Her wisdom,
being political, not to just run in head first. I mean, it started out to where Anakin had to hold her back, and then by the end, she's holding him back. Like, hey, listen, and you're the master and all, but maybe you ought to think twice about doing this or whatever.
And she's, like I said, she's learned a lot by sitting at the feet of Obi-Wan too, which is where she gets that whole political aspect from. She's been around Padme. Padme's taught her politics. Once again, Padme is like one of the best negotiators and politicians.
Absolutely.
So, like, Bail Organa, another one. So like I said, when you look at the company she's around.
Yeah, there's been a pedigree.
Yeah, like her pedigree, man, is ridiculous. I mean, it's almost like if we got a chance to sit around like a bunch of the guys who were like, oh, Elon Musk and, Mark Cuban and like basically the guys from Shark Tank, and we just hang out with these guys all the day. Well, yeah, of course your business should grow, because look who you're around all the time.
Yeah, and it's about basically influence and stuff like that. And I definitely think that, from I was going to say from a certain point of view, but from a perspective of just influencers and just being around the right people, you start to learn how to manage in different situations. Like there was one episode where it was like the Boba Fett story arc somewhere in there, and I remember her and Plo Koon had to go into this cantina or whatever.
Yeah,
and he was kind of telling her like, okay, be careful, don't
be patient,
do all this stuff, and she tried to do that, but of course things exploded, and what usually happens and everything. But the point is that you have enough of these lessons, and you have enough people that are basically taking the situations and saying, okay, look, here's what you did that was cool. Here's what you did that was wrong.
Even the coolest one, and this is you made this come to my remembrance. The episode when she lost her lightsaber, and she had to get that old like Jedi, and she was so frustrated. But he was teaching her like, be patient, slow down. You can process things. And you can know where to go. You don't have to exert so much energy if you just chill out. The things will come to you.
That was so funny, man.
And that episode was so funny.
That episode was just like cracking me up the whole time.
Oh, the whole time. Especially when he was like on that little speeder and he was going like 2 miles an hour.
Oh.
Man, I was like in tears. She's like, could you move this thing a little faster? But then the fact that he had his lightsaber like hidden in his cane, I thought that was dope.
See, the thing that was cool about that was it almost reminded me about how Yoda kept trying to teach Luke patience.
Exactly.
He kept like needling him and doing things that he knew would just frustrate him, only because he was trying to see, like, okay, how quick are you going to be to anger? How quick are you going to be to
get
frustrated and either want to kill me or just give up? Mm-hmm. And it's just
just be reckless and do something that's going to,
I mean, one of the greatest moments in Star Wars, even though I don't think I brought this up when that was actually a question on the show, but to me, one of the greatest Star Wars moments of all time was when Yoda switched from being kind of this eccentric, weird, frustrating little thing, and all of a sudden that seriousness just, like in an instant, he changed his whole demeanor, and it was kind of like, whoa.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, like, he's talking all this stuff, and he's like, oh, you asked the impossible, and he's all frustrated. And then he's like, and then, and
I so bad wanted him to pop up in Rise of Skywalker and go, you got it now.
Mm-hmm. And so, and that's why I said I love that whole line. It's just like, I don't believe it. And he's like, that is why you failed. And I was just like I remember being, just gave me chills. Like
I was like 9 years old actually when I saw that. Because I was turning 10 that year. I was like 80, but I hadn't turned 10 yet. It came out in May. So I was still 9. And even as a 9-year-old kid, I was just like, that's just so genius. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a brilliant, that just gave you chills.
It did. It definitely did. And especially, like, he's, take you to him. He's like, well, how far is he from here? No, y'all are not far, And the whole time is him. And he's just like, look, I'm just trying to get to this guy.
But you know what, though? You could understand Luke's frustration at that point. I mean, he knew he was kind of on a little bit of a time crunch.
Well, not yet. Not really. He didn't have a time crunch at that point yet.
Well, he knew he had to rendezvous with his friends, though. Yeah. And they had to regroup and then, fight the Empire. Now, granted, he didn't know until he sensed it that his friends were in trouble.
Yeah, but it's just like, okay, well, he knew he probably got to spend some time.
Well, I will say this, in thinking through what I was just saying. in his mind, his friends just went to the rendezvous point. He was going to join them at some point. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was no... But the thing, the part that was like, okay, he couldn't see, like he crashes basically his only way off the stupid thing. It's sinking into the bottom of this pond.
That would freak me out, actually.
Well, yeah, it's like, I'm stuck here. Like, how do I get off this stupid thing?
Exactly.
And then, now you got the only person that you can see in sight that can talk is this little green guy that's like 90 years old in your mind, but he's really like 900. And he's talking crazy, and you're just like, okay, I'm supposed to be, now at that point, is I'm supposed to be rendezvousing with my friends, but I can't. I got to find this Jedi Master. You seem to be the only person that knows where he is. He doesn't even know what he's looking for, because Obi-Wan didn't give him any, like, oh, he's about 6 feet tall. He's, he's like this unifying Yoda on this giant planet.
Here's like a little hologram of him, so you know what he looks like.
Yeah, exactly. On this giant planet. Like, how do I know if I'm on the right side of the planet or not?
Ronaldo's like, Luke's face in that scene was hilarious. Like, what have I done?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. It's like, right, it's just like, you got to go to Dagobah, and there you're going to find this Jedi Master, Yoda. He's the guy that taught me. Mm-hmm. Good luck.
Exactly.
And it's such an Obi-Wan thing.
Yeah.
He was just so...
vague.
He was horrible. He was horrible to Luke in the original trilogy. And the thing that's funny about it was when you actually look at the prequel Obi-Wan, it's kind of like you would have wanted to kill yourself. I mean, it's really interesting if you actually analyze. Again, this is kind of, big fandom kind of thing here, but if you analyze the way that Obi-Wan was in the prequel trilogy and in the Clone Wars versus the sequel trilogy,
versus the original trilogy.
That was technically the sequel to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. And it's really interesting too, because on that episode of Rebels, when, they showed him on Tatooine and he kills Maul, spoiler alert, you can see the difference in demeanor between the older Obi-Wan and the younger one. That's why I'm really curious on how Ewan McGregor is going to play him
on the show.
Yeah, because it's going to take place closer to the Alec Guinness era. Mm-hmm. So is he going to play it a little bit more like that characterization, or is he going to try to like sort of imagine his own version a number of years later? It's
you gotta wonder too, though. It's kind of like where his state of mind is, because you just lost the most powerful Jedi to the dark side, and you got to live with that now. And then like people still want your help for crap, and it's like, look, no, I'm good. It's like I've done enough. And then you look at some things where I could see how he's trying to handle Luke, because he's like, well, I can't screw this up. There's a lot of pressure on Obi-Wan because Yoda's not around.
Well, that's kind of why he was awfully... It seems to me like he would be a little bit more...
That's probably why he killed himself. I was like, go deal with Yoda.
Yeah, you're Yoda's problem now.
Yeah, exactly.
But you would have think that he would have been a little bit more forthcoming. Like you said, he would have given him a little bit more specific directions. He would have tried to make sure, like, look, if you're really what you consider... Because remember, Obi-Wan, Yoda knew that Leia was around. Mm-hmm. As far as Obi-Wan was concerned, Luke was the last hope.
No, he knew.
But he said, that boy is our last hope. And Yoda was like, no, there is another. So he knew, but he wasn't really thinking in terms of Leia. He was thinking in terms of Luke.
Well, that's because that's the only one they were training at the time.
Well, but they still figured that was the last hope. And he made that comment after Hoth. So my whole thing is like, if in your mind, okay, this is it. This boy is our last hope. If this fails, then, the Empire wins, everything. You would think that Obi-Wan would be a little bit more, wanting to make sure that things were stacked on the side of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Because other people have brought up a bunch of stuff. I mean, I get hit with these, people find out you have a Star Wars show, everybody starts hitting you with a bunch of questions. So one of the ones I always get, and it really is difficult to answer, is... if these guys were thinking like, okay, you have like these Force ghosts. Well, now we can see all these Force ghosts can do things like, catch lightsabers and shoot out lightning and burn stuff. Well, why didn't they help the rebellion early on? Why didn't they just all come back? And these are really difficult. Of course, the reality is that back then that wasn't really in Lucas's mind. Mm-hmm. These are inventions of the sequel trilogy, i.e. Disney. But it is part of the Star Wars lore. Now, the way I usually answer that is it's a progression. You had Qui-Gon, who first learned how to even become a Force ghost in the first place. At the time of the original trilogy, this is still a relatively new skill. Mm-hmm. As more Jedi then pass on and, they learn the Force ghost trick, it's like they start to practice. Like, okay, hey, I learned how to manipulate physical objects now, and I've learned how to manifest myself in different ways. And that's really the only way that I could explain it logically in an in-universe point of view.
Well, I also look at it from the standpoint of like you have to be, I think the ones we've seen at least, you have to be at a certain level within the Force too, I think, before you even pass away. It seems like those are the ones who usually are able to do it. So you look at Obi-Wan, powerful Jedi. Yoda, of course, the Grand Master in the Force, So, of course, he's going to be able to do stuff. Luke, same thing.
Well, and you could say that, too, because arguably Luke and Yoda would be the most powerful.
Exactly.
But, Mace was up there, too. Anakin certainly was when he passed away. So, I mean, I think one of the questions that they have, too, is like, okay, at the end with Palpatine and all that, why just be these disembodied voices that said, rise up or whatever? It's like, why not just
come up and just...
Yeah, I mean, if you can catch a lightsaber, you could do all this stuff. Why not just appear and help her take on Palpatine?
Because I think the answer to that question is because you have the power to do it. It's your destiny. They always say it's your destiny.
Yeah, but it just seems like if they wanted to vanquish evil so badly, they would just do it.
Yeah, but
I get it. It's kind of part of. It's almost like when Luke was giving her the whole thing. Like, part of a Jedi is letting go of fear and doing all this other stuff. And it's like it's your responsibility now.
Yeah, you have to confront this. That's why even Obi-Wan's like, when he went to go face Vader, he's like, if you face him, I can't help you.
Yeah, but you got to wonder when he said that. Did he mean that he literally couldn't, or that in order for Luke to fulfill his own destiny, he couldn't?
I think it's probably more so the latter. I think just to help Luke fulfill his destiny.
It makes you wonder what Obi-Wan could have done, though.
Oh, I mean, that's why. But that's why Obi-Wan told Vader, "You strike me down, I become more powerful than you could possibly imagine." And this is like. It's just the fact that Luke had to, it's almost kind of like one of those things where, and you can say it from this perspective, like when you were training me in video, it's like, okay, yeah, I could do this for you and get it done in like 5 minutes, but what did you learn?
Yeah, I guess from that perspective, it's like they wouldn't learn, like Rey wouldn't learn anything if she didn't. Yeah. It's almost like,
you have to have that. And I remember you told me one time, like, you have to feel the weight of a deadline. You have to feel that weight of getting this thing done. And it's like, if you have to stay late, you got to stay late. If you got to do this, well, okay, that has served me well. Thank you. Now at my new job, because now there's times when I've had to do it. But, had I not dealt with it with you, probably wouldn't be able to do it. And that's the thing when you look at with Luke, it's like, okay, you have this ability. You're the grandson of the Force. The power, you already have it. It's just you have to learn how to use it and control your fear. And that's why even Vader even said it, like, Obi-Wan has taught you well. You learn to control your fear. And so it was this. And even when Luke is popping out the little carbonite thing, he's like, all right, impressive, because he's just like, okay, I know you haven't had much time with him because I would have felt it by now. So the fact that you've come this far.
Well, I think it's also interesting that he gives, it's like, I always found it fascinating that both Vader and Palpatine were completely unaware of Yoda's existence at that point. Because they all thought it was Obi-Wan doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, because you got to look at it from this standpoint. I mean, one, they presumed Yoda to be dead even after he fought Palpatine, somewhat. I mean, of course, Palpatine was like, send a search party to find his body.
But the whole point is, though, that they didn't feel him. And granted, I know that Yoda was starting... First of all, his presence was masked on Dagobah with all the life forms. Then, at the same time, he's also clouding the dark side of the Force. So there's a lot of external things that play into that.
Right.
You know, and of course, yeah, the last time that he saw Luke, he knew that Obi-Wan was training him. It was like, man, how much time... And let's not forget that even though he saw that, okay, he's on the Death Star, all that stuff... He didn't know that Obi-Wan had only made contact with him and started teaching him like that week. Mm-hmm. For all Vader knew, for all Palpatine knew, he could have been training him all along, like from the time he was a little kid or something.
Right.
So from that standpoint, it does make sense. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It's just there's a lot of little interesting things that I find odd. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately... Anybody who finds out that not only are you a Star Wars fan, but you actually have a show, now they want to hit you with all their little inconsistencies and things. And, you know, sometimes I just want to say, guys, look, I didn't write the thing.
I have a show. I don't work at Lucasfilm.
I have a show. Right. I have, you know, I provide some commentary on it. You know, I'm a fan of it, yes, but I'm not an apologist. It's like I didn't write it. I didn't come up with it.
I have the same questions you do. What you
know, a lot of times I have the same questions you do. Usually I know it well enough and I've read enough of the material that surrounds the films, like the books, comics, and stuff like that. I can usually fill in or come up with some sort of in-universe explanation. But at the same time, you know, it's like, look, I mean, you and I both are the first people that will just nail Star Wars to the wall on something that's stupid. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like to think that that's why, you know, the people that watch our show can appreciate that, because we're not these guys that are paid by Disney, or, you know, we're not on here to just do this like fake. I mean, we truly do love Star Wars, but it is warts and all. It's like we will be the first ones to admit, like, okay, this is really stupid.
Right.
You know, they really dropped the ball here, or this part was brilliant, or, you know, most of our show is actually filled with like, why would they do this?
Yeah.
You know, why are they ruining this? They have a good thing. Don't mess it up.
You're killing me, Smalls.
But, you know, and that's it. And that's one of the things that I think is really cool. And, you know, it's fun to do a show like what we had today.
Yeah.
You know, and in fact, it's too bad. I might do it next week. I actually ordered a Porkins shirt that I was planning on wearing tonight. That was the whole idea. It's like I bought this shirt, I ordered it, but of course, because of the virus and shipping has been a little bit delayed, I guess I didn't order it in time. So it's either sitting in my house right now, or it's going to come in maybe like the next few days or whatever. But if it comes this coming week, I'll try to wear it on the show next week, because it is kind of fun and it's cool. And it's fun to do shows like that. We should actually maybe focus on a secondary character and either explore the character or explore the actor who played him, like what we did with William Hootkins.
Okay.
You know, I think that would be cool. And, you know, guys, let us know. I mean, if there's some character that I'm sure, you know, we'll probably go with this. Was this guy even in Star Wars? But I mean, if you have a character or something that you guys want us to focus on, feature, discuss, talk about with us during the chat or whatever, you know, let us know. Drop us a line in the comments section. If you're watching the rebroadcast, you still have probably like maybe 30 seconds or so to hit us on the chat. You know, let us know. This kind of thing was actually fun to do. This is kind of a fun show.
Definitely.
You know, I apologize, though, for any of the people that experience any issues with the streaming. It just sometimes, you know, the little gremlins are with us.
It's my knock just chewing on the cables again.
Yeah, but you know what? Make sure that, like I said, if you guys like this video, you know, if you like this kind of discussion, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we really are going to try to get some more Star Wars content out there. You know, maybe for our Twitch viewers, we'll do some gaming thing to where we actually play through a Star Wars game and comment on that. That could be fun. That could be frustrating, though. It'd be fun. It'd be frustrating for us, but I think it'd be fun for you guys. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for our show this week. Make sure you guys join us next week, 8 o'clock Friday nights. That's when we do our streams. If anything happens, we'll always have a show for you guys on Friday at 8. Most of the time, it's going to be live. So that's going to do it for us this week. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.